Call the work session of Hillsboro School District 1J to order. Our first agenda item, we have a guest with us. Hi, Carol. Nice to see you again.
Nice
Welcome.
to see you.
Supplemental transportation plan. There are many, many maps in your whole area.
We like maps.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So thank you, Board Chair Watson. We're here to provide you with an overview of the transportation plan. Give you an overview to provide you with some context, maybe some examples, and most importantly, to answer any questions. A little later this evening during the board meeting, you will have an opportunity to vote on approving this plan, but we hope to get all of your questions answered here while Carol is present during this work session. And I will turn it over to Carol Hatfield, our Executive Director of Transportation to the district.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. So, supplemental transportation plan. So, as I'm sure most of you or all of you know, school districts in Oregon are required to provide transportation for students that live outside of or beyond 1 mile to the school for elementary kids. So that would be kindergarten through 6th grade, and 1.5 miles for secondary students. So that would be 7th through 12th grade. And when we provide transportation, those costs are 70% reimbursable. In addition to that, districts can submit what they call a supplemental transportation plan. So basically what that is it says, okay, here's the mile, here's the 1.5 miles, right? But what if there are things or hazards, is what we call them, in there that makes it unsafe for students to travel, to walk to school or bike to school, however they get there. So what that allows us to do then is, you go ahead and, there's my assistant there. So basically, let's talk about what a transportation plan is. So what it does is there is a committee and we look at that 1 mile or 1.5 miles for kids. And we try and find the areas that may be hazardous for them to walk. When you do that, there's a couple of things that happen. We can then kind of put those plans together, which is why you have that huge packet of maps and the narrative. We look at each attendance area in our district. And we create that supplemental plan, which basically says, hey, there are reasons, whether it's based on health or safety reasons, that we don't believe kids should walk to school. That also includes special needs students. So what we do is we put together that plan. And so this plan is based off of a committee. The majority of this plan was put into place a number of years ago. And it really only needs to be updated as there are road improvements, schools are built. So the last one that we put together was back in about 2017, around in there. At that time, we knew about South Hillsboro was coming. We also knew about developments in the North Plains, West Union areas. So now that those are in fruition, we've put this together. And basically, we're looking at it and saying, okay, let's look for things like absence of sidewalks. If kids need to cross multiple lanes of traffic, are there crosswalks? Are there not crosswalks? What is the speed limit? What is the number of cars traveling on that? And that's where we get it together. We create hazard zones. And if you look on your maps, you will see, let me see if I can find with a nice big, here's one. A nice big thing here that you can see that, these red marks, it's like those are not good places for students to walk or bike to school. So we create that, we put the maps together. We also create that narrative that is also associated in your packet. And we bring it to you all first, to look at it, to ask questions. And then if it meets your approval, we get official approval from you. After that is put in place, then I will send it down to the ODE board, and they will also look at it. ODE will check my maps and my narrative, And once they approve it, then what that does is those students that are bused in those hazard areas would also be included in our 70% reimbursement. So that is a supplemental plan in a nutshell.
Question?
Any?
You said that there's a difference between the elementary and the secondary.
Correct.
Is there a difference also on like, this one doesn't have any sidewalk and it's okay for high school?
We do. We look at a couple of things. You know,
I'm thinking specifically like Hill High. Everybody knows there's no sidewalk there.
Right. So for Hill High, you know, it's interesting how they kind of play out. So for Hill High, you know, it would be Minter Bridge would feed into it, or the next closest one would be like Witch Hazel. Some of it does overlap, some of it doesn't. Like a good example at Minter Bridge is on Minter Bridge Road, where Jacqueline, it crosses over Minter Bridge Road, and we've made the west side of that, we've made that a hazard area, just simply because we don't want the kids coming across, and that is K-12. Most of them, if it's not safe for a kindergartner, it's probably not safe for a high schooler. So we look at things even like, you know, would they have to cross railroad tracks? Would they have to cross a max track?
Crossing multiple lanes, my brain improved Jackson School Road, multiple lanes, but there's only one each way, so that probably doesn't.
Right, so yeah, exactly. So what we're able to do in that, and Jackson School is a perfect example. We worked closely with city and county when they were doing, you know, the expansion there, and we wanted to make it a walk zone. The city was really great with us, and not only did they put in extra crossing, you know, crosswalks, but they also put in, and I'm sorry, I can't remember what it's called, but where the kids can hit the button and it creates the flash. We also then, out of Saide's office, will put crossing guards. So another example where we do cross kids is like on Davis Road, and the agreement with that was always that neighborhood could be walkers as long as there was a controlled light. The city kept the speed limit down to a certain criteria, and there's a crossing guard.
I guess the Jackson thing, I looked in the folder just now. I don't see one for.
Right.
I mean,
you're right. Exactly. So you're right. We now have Jackson Elementary and W.L. Henry Elementary are what we call full walk schools. So Jackson is one of those. Emily is so close. Emily is so close, but Emily, in their boundary, they have a pocket that's up on the other side of what is that, Baseline, Main Street. And so they have one bus still that picks up that little pocket. We don't want them obviously crossing Baseline to come down to their school.
I apologize for not asking this prior to this meeting, but we had a parent who was pretty upset about their interaction with the transportation, about the safety of their child, the place of the pickup, but I did not see the school that would have coordinated with that parent. Does anybody remember?
Oh yeah. Are you talking about the Laurelwood Road situation? Yeah, that actually is not a walk area. That is a bus area. What they were upset about was the road that they happen to live on has been deemed unsafe to travel on. But their student comes up to a bus stop, but they are in a bus zone, not a walk zone.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Right.
any other questions?
A couple of things I did want to point out in case it's confusing is when you look at the narrative that goes with this is some of the schools are highlighted in red on the narrative, and I did put a legend at the bottom of it, and so the ones that are red, those are the ones that have had significant changes since the last time we did it. You'll also notice in here, if there's questions, let me. We actually created, it's for R.A. Brown. Hazard is tagged in red. That means we've created a new hazard. But if you look at Glencoe and Evergreen, you'll see that it goes hazard A, B, and then hazard D. And that was because hazard C was in an approved area, and I believe it was Jackson School. So that hazard C no longer exists, but we can't give another area that name. So for historical purposes, if we ever needed to go back and look at something in our maps for the routing purposes, we can see that that was still in there.
What you call the narrative is what we have in pages in our packet.
Right, correct. It lists the school, the hazard zone, how many students would be bused.
Right on page 5.
Yeah.
One last question. Does this ever go, well, I guess the question is, one, how many times do we do this? Or is this a biannual or annual?
So the supplemental plan, it depends on what changes within your district. So for us, it hasn't been done since, and I'm sorry, I feel like 2017, around in there. And then until there's additional changes, which usually comes with new neighborhoods, new schools, road improvements, sidewalk improvements. Well, I do anticipate with as quickly as this area is building that we will probably have to do another one within 2 years at the most.
And so then my second question is, how does the community hear about this? And I realize that you're asking us to approve it on behalf of the community, but how does the community know about the changes?
Well, right now, everything that's in here, we're already busing those kids. So what happens is when kids register for schools and it comes up in the system, are you a walker? Are you a bus rider? Are you, those kinds of things. It'll give them that information at that time. And if you look up on My Bus, it would also give them that information.
Got it. Thank you very much.
I know this is information, the plan is for us and identifying and also for getting refunded or funded prices for those areas.
Correct.
Do you ever use it like with ODOT or the city to say, hey, there's some roads here, maybe can get prioritized as getting sidewalks?
No, that's a great question, and we do. We work, especially with the city. They've been really great. They will reach out because they apply for grants to do improvements, and so they always reach out to us. We always meet and have conversations about places that, we would like to see improvements put in. Primarily, I really try to focus on our underserved communities to be sure that those kids have access to the best sidewalks and signals to either walk or bike to school. Yeah, they do. No, they've been fantastic. And so has Washington County.
Questions? Thanks for the presentation. Thanks for being with us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carol.
But
Right, our next agenda item, we have another guy. Update on the Oak Street campus.
One of the things that we did back on, it's been a while since we updated you on our Oak Street campus. Actually, the last presentation was more about the work that we were doing to build the Pathway Center, but this is actually an update for all of you just to hear about what is happening at Oak Street campus and the services that we provide to that campus. And so we thought it was a good time to give you an update, especially as a connected to graduate. David?
Yeah, it's good to be back. 2 months in a row. Yeah. Creating a habit. I'm going to begin just tying this conversation back to our strategic plan. Thinking about how we're supporting all students and where the students are entering their learning experience from and at, and how we're being able to support students at the Oak Street campus. Really looking at our why as well. So the why of Oak Street, it empowers student learning through relationships, self-discovery, and a strength-based individualized approach. OSC strives to provide meaningful learning opportunities, access to college services, and flexibility in academic planning. And then I added this last sentence here, which I think is really important, that it supports our students up to the age of 21 with a variety of options. Reach their needs, but they're also very flexible. Kind of with that background, Audrey and I have broken our presentation really into 3 parts, starting with the Pathway Center. 3 programs are based in the Pathway Center. And then talking about the partnership we have with Washington County with Adjudicated Youth, and then moving over to the older building, the much older building, the David Hill building with the programs actually on Oak Street campus itself, the old building.
So the Pathway Center at Oak Street campus, as you remember, this was part of our bond work, and this is the beautiful building that we did build on the Oak Street campus for the Pathway Center. And really, this was a design in mind to support students that maybe were not quite crossing the finish line in their comprehensive high school experience, and just another avenue to support students. I don't know how many of you have been to that campus, but or that building, but it's beautiful. It's got a kitchen, it's got a washing machine, it's got a dryer, it's got all of these things to just give students access while also covering some of our programs. We haven't gotten a chance to talk about all of the amazing things that are there. So now that it's open, because once it's open, we had COVID, and would give it a little hiccup. But one of the things that we have housed at the Pathway Center is our early college program, and really it's available for our 11th and 12th graders, and they attend Portland Community College to take courses that all meet our graduation requirements. And currently, this number is 2 students off. It is actually 107 students are currently enrolled in early college, and they are working through that all of those courses. And our graduation rate for those students sits at, last year it was at 100%, the year before was 96%, and the year before that was 100%. That are currently, that did not graduate from that are working in other enrollment for the 24-25 school year is actually just starting now, and I think there is a meeting tonight about it as well. One of the great things about this program is that we have brought it over to us, and we have taken an opportunity for students to take college courses, and we have worked really hard to have the population of the students that are attending early college match the demographics of our students here in Hillsboro. And it is pretty close. What?
Isn't everyone here with us tonight?
The other part of the Pathway Center is just our re-engagement work. If you remember, again, part of this design was really to connect with students that may not have been successful in the comprehensive setting, to think about other ways to support them. And since 21-22 is when it really officially was able to take off, we have connected with students that maybe didn't cross the finish line in their 4-year cohort. We have connected with over 400 students. We have reached 112 and actually had 109 of those students re-enroll in HSD. So if you remember when we talked about graduation rates, well, our goal is 4 years always for our students. It is okay if it is 5, and honestly, as I shared before with you, we want to get them over the finish line, and we will work with them, as David said, until they are 21 to try to get them what they need to either have a GED or a diploma at the end. So this is really the work of Bryce and Amy Torres, who work over at Oak Street campus, and really doing amazing leadership connecting back to school. This number is a little larger than we would like it. We also acknowledge that post-pandemic, it's been a little bit tougher, and we're working on that, and fighting kids, connecting with them, and doing the work to get them re-enrolled back in our schools. The other program that is housed over there is Diploma Plus, and this is again, kind of that area where we have students that maybe did not receive their diploma in their senior year, just getting re-engaged before transitioning maybe back to school, maybe getting them caught up on a couple of courses and then getting them back in the comprehensive high school so that they can complete with a high school diploma. This is the target audience for this group of students is students that have fewer than 8 credits remaining to graduate. So we're really just getting them to the finish line or getting them reconnected back at their comprehensive. Already, we have 15 diploma completers. So again, this is students that we can get it at the 4-year mark, but they will be doing it at the 5-year mark. Yeah,
Information that you may not know, we're actually up to 19 diploma completers. Since the slide deck was made, 3 more students finished. So we've
Audrey, do we, the disproportionality is kind of glaring at me, and I was wondering what your thoughts on about that.
right now, the disproportionality of the students, if you remember our graduation data, our students that are graduating in our while it is up, it is not where the students that are in the majority, or for example, our white students are. And while those students are not crossing the finish line in that capacity, our goal is to, regardless, we are going to get them to. So until we are at the point where those are matching, we may see some disproportionality in this number. But our goal is always to have the graduation rate of our students at the 4-year comprehensive. We are not there yet. And but I think what is really important is that we're still speaking to the students.
Thank you.
The other program that we house over at the Pathways Center is the GED program. And this one is it's designed for students who work independently for the most part to access their GED. And right now, I think this number is still... It's 14. It's 14, okay. I think that, I will say, I've learned a lot about GED in the last year and a half. The GED is not easy, and it is hard work for students, and I think that sometimes perhaps that there is an image of what a GED is, and it is not what I think that everybody thinks it is. And I think it's a very difficult and challenging program that gets students ready for the workforce and to give them access future to attend university as well.
one more reminder to the program. In order to participate, you need to have an Oregon-issued ID card, which is a barrier for some students. And so that the ORS is in place, not as a gatekeeper by means, but to help support the program in terms of the legislation side of it.
What is it?
Any ID, or any Oregon-issued ID. Yeah.
I was about to ask a really stupid question, like how would a minor have an Oregon-issued ID?
For the age of 16 plus, in order.
They are at that age. And in this state, we do grant driver's license to those who are undocumented?
For that question.
I think we do. Okay, so that would be the way that they would get it. Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
No, that's a great question.
Sorry. We have a partnership with Washington County, and this is for our students that are adjudicated. There are 2 locations. There is Harkins House, which is students that are 318, and they are providing instruction by an ASIC teacher, and currently they the first team students. The Washington County GL Education is also an area where students are supported with either a GED or diploma, and currently they're serving students. I want to note that these are not necessarily students that are HSE students. It is where they are being supported from your school, so they are within our boundaries.
So they could be residents of Multnomah County, but they are held.
They would be Washington County, but it could be.
But they're held in Washington County. Okay.
And currently, we have, 16 overall.
Now, is this part, no, legal questions, get it?
I have a quick question. I may have gotten distracted reading while you were saying something, maybe I missed it, but the reason these are under the Oak Street campus is because they're supervised from there, even though they're delivered at the...
Yes, they are supervised through that.
Okay.
Yep. We have a teacher that supports, and she is supervised by the principal of Oak Street campus.
Transition back to Oak Street campus, the programs that are offered in the older building, the David Hill building, we're going to kind of first begin with Hillsboro Big Picture. Hillsboro Big Picture is an alternative option for students to earn their high school diploma. Smaller class sizes, different schedules in the comprehensive. There's more personalized learning environment for the students. Students do engage in an advisory program that mirrors. There are community meetings built in a restorative model. Career exploration and community service learning is also featured. Hillsboro Big Picture. Ninth grade students currently enter in January as a freshman. And so there's a vetting process, an application process for those freshmen to join the Big Picture. If so deemed that is better for them to get their learning through that smaller setting. Currently there are 60 students in the Big Picture program at Oak Street. Another program that is housed at Oak Street is PEARL, and PEARL stands for Personalized Education and Real Learning. It supports our students who have been expelled from the comprehensive high schools. You know, expulsion can happen at any point from 1 month up to 1 year, depending upon how that expulsion process is written, and it's a way to provide individualized learning for students to meet their graduation goals. Currently, as of today, there are 7 high school students and 1 middle school student in the program.
May I ask, do we have any disproportionality issues with that group of 8?
Do have disproportionate issues, yes.
In the way I'm thinking?
Probably.
Race.
Yes.
Race and gender.
Okay.
Other program, the program. This program offers high-quality, family-centered childcare and education of students 0 to 3 years of age. Services are offered 6 to 9 hours per day, 5 days a week. Students can continue their education at Oak Street or at their comprehensive high school. Like, for example, last week I was at Century visiting and walking down the hallway, and a former student I had in my previous building came up and gave me a hug, and they were dropping off their baby, and I didn't know they had a baby, and it was just so heartwarming to see the student dropping off their child and then going to school at a different high school. It made me feel good that we have that opportunity for students. Also, there's family engagement services that are provided to students. As of today, there are 18 parenting students, and there are 14 babies in the program. 10 of those little ones are at Oak Street, and 4 are Surrey. And then the last program is Hillsboro Online Academy. HOA provides a flexible K-12 online program that nurtures a love for learning that prepares students for success in a dynamic virtual world. Currently, there are the numbers listed there, K through 6, 7 through 8, 9 through 12. 9 through 12, there's actually 2 types of students that are accessing HOA. There's the 100% online access point, that's 290 students, and there are 186 concurrent students concurrently enrolled with their comprehensive and with HOA at the same time. The reason HOA sits here is because the high school portion of HOA is housed at Oak Street, and so that work parallels the work that's happening in the building. Online Academy, the data here presented is really two types of data. And I actually think things on it.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, I'm just on a roll.
You're on a roll,
I'm on a roll.
and I was like, I didn't want to interrupt the roll.
I'm like, oh,
Totally
wow,
fine.
I could do it here. The top data set is the performance fact data from last spring, and the performance fact data set is social emotional belonging data that all students in HSD took. And as you can tell, there's 4 different types of data sets here. Students that access HOA access it for a reason. And so the welcoming and safe environment, 90.8% of those students are accessing the school because they feel safe there. Some of those students did not feel safe in their own high school, so therefore the online opportunity is presented to them. 83.7% feel physically safe with the online virtual learning opportunity, and then 61.5% and 47.3% are those two areas around stress in school. And if we were to look at performance fact data and then look at HOA and kind of think about how we best supporting the kids, this data set will lead into the next slide about some work that we're doing to really meet the needs of students who are not feeling emotionally safe or have high levels of stress around school. The second data point is graduation data, class of 22, which would be 2 years ago. Four-year graduation rate was 79%, and then last year's graduation rate was 70%. You want to jump in and add anything?
I think we talked about just seeing this dip. As we know, students are accessing, like David said, accessing HOA for a variety of reasons. And I think as we have a new administrator over there, she is really, Shannon Fordisall, she is really working to create better on-track systems similar to what we have in our comprehensive to make sure that students are on track at HOA. And currently, with her 12th grade data, she has been sitting at 77% on track, which is a good feeling going towards the end. We obviously want it higher. Her end number is also smaller. She has anywhere from 45 to 55 students in her senior classes, so it is a smaller number. So it's, two students to make a big thing in a percentage. But her goal is to increase the graduation rate because they were on track to hopefully press 80%.
Speaking of that, going on to the next slide here, there's a group of individuals that work at HOA, the administrators, support staff, teachers themselves, central office staff that have come together to look at the data to figure out how we can best meet the needs of students in HSD. What does that look like from an HOA perspective, and what does that look like from a comprehensive perspective? How can we really lean into the student need, to what the students are telling us, to what the families are telling us about their educational experience? With that knowledge, this task force is working under a theory of action that is not finalized, that is not complete. This is a 30,000-foot level viewpoint, bird's eye view at this point in terms of what we're thinking of doing moving forward, creating a virtual hybrid model based in each of the 4 comprehensive high schools where students will better engage in their high school learning experience, and then a virtual hybrid model will support several parts of our strategic plan, supporting kids with attendance, supporting our on-time performance indicators, truly address socio-emotional needs in terms of building that individualized experience both at the high school and at HOA, give more ownership of one's learning, and then provide a wider range of courses. As we survey the data set from them, is they're looking for more of a wider range of choice. And in the Learning Hub, on-campus virtual hybrid blended model, we can provide that to students. And then meeting the needs of students in the 21st century. And then most importantly, the bottom one is keeping our HSD students in our school district. How can we best support keeping our students here, attending one of our schools, either the comprehensive high school, alternative program at Oak Street, or the virtual environment at HOA, or the blended learning environment?
I'm curious to know, the virtual hybrid model at every comprehensive high school sounds phenomenal, but I can't not consider that there is an impact, could be negative or could be otherwise, to the teachers who have to support that. So what I've never understood was what was the true impact on the teachers that had to do that during COVID. And I'm figuring that we learned some pretty big lessons and hoping that we learn from that and we're still evolving in that process. But I'm just wondering, I see that, I think it looks great, and on its face, we're like, yeah, but then you gotta figure, what does that mean to the teachers who actually have 30 kids inside the classroom and not everybody's at the same level and they're teaching and they're doing all the things.
I think that's one of the reasons why you're bringing us together is COVID we just had to do, like we didn't get a choice, right?
Right.
In that model, and right now we do have a choice, and this is why David is doing a great job of bringing in the teachers, bringing in our lens of it, even layering in like what would this be impactfully through the contractor, all of those pieces to have conversations and ask great questions so that we can be mindful and planful in how this will roll out. It is not designed yet. It is a work in progress, and they are also like figuring out again the best ways to approach this and to create a system that can evolve so that we're not reinventing, but we're not behind in how education is running right now. And we see more happening in virtual, hybrid, online programs across the nation.
Yeah, and there's three things that kind of build what Andre said. One is behind this theory of action is a long list of needs, dreams, and wants, and vetting that work, because we did learn a lot coming out of COVID. We did learn a lot coming back in hybrid, and those lippy environments that we all did in 2021. There's that piece. Also, we've done a lot of research. We've traveled. We've gone to several conferences. A team of individuals have. We've looked at best practice around the country. We're partnering with speakers, Flex in BSD, trying to think how can we as a system solve those questions, because we don't want to repeat. Also, though, that original credit and credit attainment, depending upon how the student enters a virtual learning environment, looks different. So how can we not put an old system on new thinking and allow this to exist on its own and not burden the system? Because if you don't be thoughtful, you're going to burden the system, thus burden the teachers. So a lot of time has been put into that thinking.
Apologies, one more question. If memory serves me correct, we had a large number of students, or not large, but a significant number of students that came from one of the big four, where they closed down their online program. They all came to us. Whatever happened with those numbers, and are those kids included in the Oak Street campus program? Are they strictly HOA? Just wondering where that happened, because I never forgot about that, but I didn't hear anything else about it.
We did open up slots at HOA specifically for school districts that may have closed their online programs. We didn't end up getting a lot more. I couldn't tell you the number right off the top of my head, but we did get a handful of students from other.
Okay, so it wasn't what we thought it was going to be.
It wasn't as high as we thought it was going to.
Okay.
But it's available, and they're there, and they are part of HOA. HOA is still a school. It is just housed at Oak Street campus.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Good question. Yes.
Other questions?
This is a question about, you said that it turns students up to the age of 21. I'm assuming that's if they don't have a high school diploma or GED, right?
Correct.
If they do, then they would go to PCC.
Yes, correct.
And how, that connecting with the 400 students, like, do we still, I'm assuming, are we still like trying to connect with them every year until they turn 21 to try to recapture them, or is it just like one time and see if they want to come back?
No, it is multiple connections. There is what I can only describe as is the most beautiful spreadsheet that is created by the team over there that has documentation of what they're doing with their first attempt, their second attempt, what they've heard, what they've learned. We also find students that have moved or left or gone other places, and that's noted. So it's their students do not leave that list until they have completed a GED or diploma. So.
And on the GED front, those barriers to like having a license so that you can do that, are those things that the district helps students get? Like, go to the DMV and get your ID so you can take your GED?
I don't know if we go with them there, but we give them the resources to access and how to access, provide opportunities for how to make an appointment or show up. What does that look like? What is the providing the resource in terms of taking the assessment?
We don't provide any like funds to.
I don't believe so. No.
We have not done that.
If somebody had that and it was a real hardship for them, we do have a mechanism for meeting emergency needs through our department, but we connect with the local churches who've indicated that they do want to provide that kind of support.
Yeah, I thought that would be.
Student needs eyeglasses because they just can't or they need a mattress because their apartment burned down or something, that is something that we would consider that way too.
It's not sound as much of a barrier to it as the actual GED assessment and process. Yes, yeah.
Weird related question, weird what if, I guess. Have we ever seen a student, 19-year-old who's ready to matriculate, not do it because Oak Street's the only place they can do laundry?
That question.
So like they complete their GED or high
High school diploma, they lose access to Oak Street.
Oh,
and you mentioned like
Yeah.
sort of the safe haven for some kids.
yeah.
I don't have the historical knowledge to answer that question. So
I wouldn't know the answer to that one off the top of my head. I also know. We would figure out something.
Yeah.
Knowing the allegiance they're housed over there, we would figure out something.
Other questions?
I would just say part of the reason we do these presentations is so that you all feel well informed about what's going on in our programming. And if people ask you, what are you doing to help kids get over the finish line after COVID? All these programs, especially the Pathways Center, where we drive a van out and pick kids up and bring them in, are really incredible programs. So I got a soft spot because I started my career at a night school in Eugene for alternative education, and the suite of programming that we have in HSB is remarkable, and the number of connections for kids who need a different path are incredible. So hope that you're communicating that out on the street when people hit you up and say, what are you doing?
Are we behind?
Slightly, but not terrible.
Get it.
All right. Thanks for being with us 2 months in a row.
Maybe 3, who knows? Exactly. Yeah.
Our last agenda item in the work session is a discussion of the inclement weather days and some decisions the governor made, and Travis has some stuff he wants to share with us.
Thank you. So originally, this was just an update on inclement weather and restoring days at the end of the school year. And asked to talk a little bit about the summer school situation now that the legislative session is closed. And then asked to talk a little bit about the situation with Century High School and the communication swirl that's out there in our community. So I'm going to talk fast, and you're going to just have to listen to me talk for a little while because I don't know any other way to communicate this information. It's possible that I might also do the Century communication tonight in the work session, maybe an abridged version, but then I would also plan, if we're getting public comments tonight about the Century situation, to redo it in its entirety downstairs with your feedback.
Agreed. It's important.
Thank you. Inclement weather days. Here's the situation. In January, I don't know if you remember back that far, we had 4 inclement weather days. And today at the board meeting is just an opportunity for me to communicate our plan. Assuming there are no other natural disasters that happen between now and the end of the school year, this is our plan. We are planning to not add back days, June 13th and 14th during that last week of school, but instead turn our attention toward preparing for summer school and turn our attention toward a future calendar that has inclement weather days embedded in the calendar rather than assuming that tacking them on is a good idea at the end of a school year. So let me get there. I've told you the punchline. Now let me share the rationale for a minute. And none of these items that I'm saying today require any board action. This one doesn't, just as a reminder to the board, because the calendar that you approved already accounted for the inclement weather day possibility. Also, and if we wanted to add back days, we could add back 2 instructional days without you all approving a new calendar, a revised calendar. We've been deliberating on whether or not to add back days. Something playing into our decision is that Governor Kotek has offered a waiver of 14 hours of instructional time, or equivalent to about 2 days of school that was lost due to inclement weather across the state. So right now, HSD intends to access that waiver. HSD is meeting minimum instructional hour requirements per Division 22 at all different levels, K through 12. The waiver allows us to meet those instructional hour minimums without taking advantage of recess, conferences, professional development, which are allowable under Division 22, but we've always kept it clean. We've always said we have these minimum number of hours, and we're not getting into the squishy hours. We'll ask you to approve the waiver in an April board meeting. Brooke is team captain on the waiver with ODE, and she's in communication with them. Technical requirement is that the board approve our reason for submitting the waiver, but we don't have to do that yet. The decision points and the dilemma that we have as leaders seem obvious. Do we add back days or not? How would we structure the last week of school if we were to add back days? We have a half day on the Thursday and a full day on the Friday for teachers, and we talked about restoring a half a day and then restoring one to a full day and then doing another half a day on Friday. What would be the impact on students and school communities of adding back those days? And what is the impact on summer instructional programming and or facilities work that we're going to start right away if we add back those days? If that Monday that follows June 13th and 14th, it's game on for some summer school programming that you'll learn in a minute we're going to do bigger this year. Values. What's best for students? Primary in my mind is what are we doing for our students? Instructional time matters. When we experience inclement weather, we track the hours that are lost, and we know that those hours impact our student experience. We also know that adding days at the end of the school year might not be the best time to recapture learning loss due to inclement weather. And so I want to further the conversation with the board next time we talk about a calendar of embedding those days. Meeting legal obligations is a second lens. Division 22 instructional hours, check. Governor Kotek offered the waiver of 14 hours, which we intend to access, so we're in good standing legally. Making good on our obligation to taxpayers is another lens that we apply when we're making a decision. We paid licensed staff essentially to not work those days that we were iced over during the inclement weather. And per the collective bargaining agreement, there is a requirement to work those days only if we restore instructional days at the end of the year. So we see that as a type of a resource that is lost to our system when we don't restore those days. Classified staff will make up the hours in a variety of ways between now and the end of June, or access accrued leave time to make up for those hours related to the time they didn't work during the inclement weather. Administrators and supervisory and technical staff also, for time not worked during inclement weather, will be making up that time if they weren't engaged in work during those inclement weather days. Like classified staff, we do in a number of ways between now and June 30th make up those hours or use accrued leave time. We also engaged different perspectives on this topic. So I want to say that the conversations with staff, students, families, polling in the direction of no thanks, we don't really want to make up those days is one factor. We've also received emails from the community saying, please tell me you're going to make up those days because I pay my taxes. Administrators can go either way. They would back us if we added those days back. I also talked with HCU and HEA leadership. Thank you, Mary Kay, for talking about this with me. And they offered some alternatives to adding back those instructional days. So after all that taken into consideration, the decision today is to access the waiver, don't add back days at the end of the year. We don't think it's the best use of our time on June 13th and 14th to add back a day. And we're going to look ahead to our summer programming, which is going to be more robust this summer, and then look ahead to approving a calendar with days that are inclement weather days that would be days we'd activate if inclement weather happened that would be on a Friday in April or May, so that time could be recaptured when it's more meaningful to students rather than structurally building in the days that are not as valuable at the very end of the school year.
Adopting our calendar today.
The new calendar doesn't have any of that built into it. This would be a work for the calendar committee that we're going to lead that will lead us to a subsequent calendar. That's the situation, and there's, again, no action, but I'm happy to answer questions or hear perspectives, support.
I find it interesting that you got That we got correspondence that said, hey, I want this day back because my tax
Well, it
money.
didn't exactly say that.
Well, okay, good. That just sounds,
I mean, that's an approximation.
I get you, but,
We pay people to not work.
Yeah, we did.
well, yeah, but everybody does.
No, some people are making up the hours that they missed during the work week, like everybody else.
Oh, so we don't have that across both license and class.
And
Okay.
administrative and super tech.
Thank you
Yeah.
for that clarification.
Yeah.
Does make a difference. Apologies.
All good. I want to have the conversation so everybody understands what we're doing. Topic number two. Topic number two, House Bill 4082 passed. We had lobbied as a district along with other districts and COSA for $50 million for summer programming this summer. House Bill 4082 passed with $30 million for summer programming for public schools in Oregon. The governor signed the bill today. On March 14th, the state school board will pass temporary rules describing how that money will be allocated and what we'll do to activate it. And by spring break, there may be a webinar for school districts to access whatever the temporary rules are that get us that money. Here's the long and the short of it. It allows us to do good things for kids. We already have plans for summer programming, and we already have partners to help us with our summer plans, which are prerequisites for applying for the money. State is going to rank districts in order of need based on some criteria possibly related to student achievement in who gets first dibs at the money. And so we may be given the option to apply for the grant in order of need, and we may be in batches, but we don't know which batch we're in. We're hoping to be at the top of the stack because we're ready with our plans and we know what to do if we were given the money. Brooke's also team captain on this one. We have the summer school super group ready to go, and we always know what to do this time of year when it comes to standing up programs for the summer. We're not guaranteed any quantity of money, but we've estimated that we may be eligible for something like $900,000. But again, the system that they're setting up is needs-based, and not every district may even qualify to get the money. And based on either taking it or leaving it, the first batch will roll into a second allocation, which would either be more or less based on who took it and who left it. And so there's a lot to be determined. There's reason to be happy because the legislature at one moment was said to be considering deferring a summer school allocation to the following school year and overlooking this summer as in need, and we made a really strong case that we needed the money and that we know what to do with it, and it makes a big difference for kids. That's a celebration. So thank you to anybody who weighed in with local legislators or voiced your opinion about the importance of that money. And we'll keep you posted as we learn later in March what the rules are and what the impact might be for HSC. Anything, bro?
Yeah, well, we did advocate for this. As you know, legislators only get 2 bills that they can choose sponsor in the short session. This is one of Representative Payne's bills from this session that she was chief sponsor of, supporter of education, who's a former HSC educator. So, and it passed with huge bipartisan support. So, I appreciate that the legislature understands just how important in a post-pandemic world that summer makeup opportunities are.
Next topic. All right. Regarding doxing and neo-Nazi social networks and the incident that happened at Century High School. Regarding what happened at Century High School in response to the knowledge that 2 students were involved in online activities related to a network of neo-Nazis, I'm going to share the following. To acknowledge the fear and anger that exists in our community right now as a result of this situation. I have personally communicated with families who are concerned about the safety of our children. We work hard every day, 7 days a week, to keep our schools safe. And I can't tell you not to worry. I can't tell you that online activities aren't super scary. They are. I can tell you that there is no place in our schools for hate and bias and targeting in HSD. We will continue our work to educate students on the importance of valuing and appreciating one another across differences, and holding students accountable to behavior expectations outlined in our standards of conduct. The following steps have been taken in response to the situation at Century High School. 1, we've completed a thorough investigation at Century regarding the 2 students. 2, we've completed a bias incident notice and response report under the Every Student Belongs policy that the school board adopted in HSD. 3, police have completed a thorough investigation with the students and their family, including a home visit. 4, we continue to partner with HPD to minimize the real or perceived threats to schools due to online activities. And that's constant. That's not just yesterday with Century High School. And finally, our school resource officer is on site and available to assist us at any time. Also, please note the following. There has been no threat made against the school by the students that we investigated. Also, police have confirmed that the items shown in the pictures with the students were airsoft guns and not actual assault rifles. For the board and community, what I just read there is taken from a template email that we've been sending in response. Julie Casper, David Nuslanik, Travis Ryman, to concerned families. That's a lot of the details that we've queued up to help families understand the facts outside of the social media swirl. Additional comments from me to you, to the board and community. This situation has 2 main areas of concern that we've been working tirelessly over the past week to address. The first one is the connection between 2 students at Century and a high-risk social network, what the police have characterized as a neo-Nazi or white nationalist ideology. The board and HSD staff have condemned hate in our school communities. In 2020, the HSD school board adopted Every Student Belongs policy. That includes reporting on bias incidents. It includes curriculum teaching dignity and tolerance across differences, and it outlaws hate symbols, including the Confederate flag, the noose, and the Nazi swastika. We are engaged ongoing with law enforcement, community partners, and other districts to address high-risk social networks, including students involved in gang activities and political and religious extremist groups, and including neo-Nazi and white supremacist groups. That collaboration includes interagency communication and collaboration to create pathways away from violence, like mentorship for our students, extracurricular activities for our students, prioritized in our strategic plan, and also community service activities for our kids. We will continue to work with community partners, family, and students to help students stay safe. Last week, we held a community forum where we educated families on resources specifically around high-risk social networks at the Brookwood Public Library. So we're being proactive about this, and we said from the beginning that white supremacist groups, according to the police department, are elevated in their attention right now alongside gang activity. We need families to engage with students regarding their online activities. We will continue to teach students about their digital footprint, about the impact of their actions and words on others, and how to keep each other safe. That's the first part of this issue, in my perspective. The second part is the doxing of students. We've seen doxing in the national media. We've seen doxing of public officials for the purpose of intimidation in our country. By doxing, what I mean is the widespread sharing of personal information like home addresses, places of work, and personal cell phone numbers of public officials in our country. Haven't in Hillsboro seen doxing of students. What started as the exposure of these 2 students for their online activities spread when links and screenshots were shared around the community. Myself and school administrators were not the first recipients of the original communications. We almost immediately found out what the communications were, and we acted quickly. Is there a threat? What's our response? What student discipline follows? Who needs to know? How do we keep students safe? Because of the reach of the rumors, we had a high number of inquiries and we answered them. We had a high number of social media posts. Many were reshares of the original blog, some accurate and some taking the information in unpredictable new directions, including rumors of school shootings. Many posts just demanded more information. Demanding action and accountability is fair. We want to take action and we want to be accountable for student safety, and HSD and HPD does too. We responded. We worked with the police. We communicated directly with families and students who expressed concern, as well as the broader Century High School community. We did not post in-depth responses on social media. We do not have the right to share personally identifiable information about students at CHS with about 20,000 families in our distribution list in the Hillsboro community. Future doxing will result in students being shamed, outed, or accused in any number of unpredictable ways on social media and on the internet. We will continue to respond with safety as our first priority. We will continue to protect the rights of students, even those who make terrible decisions, because that's our moral responsibility and it's the legal right of students to be protected. We will continue to educate about hate and prejudice. We will continue to educate about internet safety. We learned that we should outreach to a few more community leaders to let them know what's going on behind the scenes, including our parent advisory committees. We learned that we could add a little more tender, loving care to our communications, perhaps going further when we acknowledge the fear that's out there. We will continue to keep schools safe in partnership with law enforcement, families, staff, and students. And I want to thank the folks who shared tonight for sharing their concerns and thank them for the opportunity for me to share our thought process and some of the nuance of the decision-making that's gone on in the last couple of weeks. Those are just comments that we as a team made for ourselves today in the case that we get the chance to share at the work session and at the regular session what the thought process was behind this incident at Century. So with your permission, I would respond like we don't usually do after the public comment tonight, just so that I can say some of that thought process out loud.
I don't know, I don't think it's a vote issue, but I am strongly advocating that we allow him to make that comment, those comments again. It's important. I personally had several phone calls from parents who were very concerned, especially when the letter from the high school came out, which they felt was dismissive. But that is spot on.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you.
I agree that you definitely should share that if there's folks who are public comment. I think that'd be appreciated. I think that when this first came out, it's a really bizarre situation involving a lot of different factors that we don't see very often. And initially, I wasn't planning to get too into the details because as a board, we usually look at systemic issues and leave individual incidents to our very qualified administrators. But it's good to know more since we have had a lot of community concern. And obviously, the underlying concern is about student safety and student well-being. But I think a lot of the way community concern was expressed to me and maybe to others is that they wish the communication had been a little different from the district. And sometimes people feel if things read very generic or sort of corporate HR language instead of people can get impressions that aren't intended is my point. And so I think we have a really good communications team, and I know we have a lot of restrictions on what we can and can't share, but I think it's good that we're treating this as a learning experience to see, is there any way that we can, things we didn't know the community was wanting or things they might read into it that we would not have expected, that we kind of can continue to learn from that, all of us together.
Yeah, just a point of clarification. I think a lot of what the community became fearful about, what stemmed from the swirl on social media. I haven't heard directly that something that we said allowed them to think that something dangerous was going to happen. I think what I heard was that what we said was maybe corporate and limited, and they wanted the details, and they wanted a little more TLC, like, hey, please acknowledge our fear. And I think that's fair.
That's exactly what I heard as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, acknowledging the fear is different from providing details. That's in a legally precarious position.
Correct. Or inadvertently saying something that
Yes.
led people to believe they had reason to fear.
Exactly.
That was handled for us by social media swirl that took pictures and thoughts and amplified those very quickly in all sorts of directions.
Yeah.
Erica.
I just think that's important to acknowledge, like, it's just how things are now in the world is a lot harder to prove the truth than to believe the lie that's already been spread. It's like, you can't fight social media. You can't fight that whole thing. It's like impossible to address that. And so I think for us, the more that we could put information or direct people from social media to our website and say like, here's the communication that we send out, or like, and explain that we are working with HPD and that it does have more acknowledgement of what the fear might be, but that there is no basis. Like the same thing that we do when we do have concerns that come in, we have like a communication. But I think when it goes to the social media and people are sharing screenshots, and it's just like becomes this wildfire that you can't control anymore. So the best that we can do is reroute people to the source of truth, information, and facts, which is our website. Here's where the information, if you're getting stuff up somewhere else, we can't control that, what you're believing to choose to read about, but we can control what we are doing and what we're saying we're doing, and here it is.
Thank you. We'll continue to do that.
Monique.
Yeah, I agree. I think it needs to be spoken again during the regular session. I think a couple of things that parents are looking for too. You acknowledged acknowledging their fear and the reality of that. But I also think the other side of it is if this violated the student handbook code of conduct, parents ought to be told that yes, that this was a violation and it's being dealt with, or there's some consequence to what's happening, or what has happened in there. So I totally understand that things got blown out of proportion because of social media and stuff, and that wasn't the original accusation or however that played out. But I think it's important that parents know, and maybe helps to calm the fear of knowing that these students, if they broke rules, are facing consequences for that.
I don't think we've ever been in a position where we've shared the disciplinary actions of one student with anyone else. And I don't know that we can do
But
that.
I don't know that's not what she's saying. What she's saying is that we have to acknowledge that there is a breach of the student.
No, we don't.
Okay.
Shouldn't.
See, and that goes a long way to me, that would go a long way to establishing trust, that there is a breach and there are consequences. No one's saying you have to go into details about what those consequences are or such, just that it's being handled. And that's just reassurance to the parents that yes, there were consequences to these actions.
Disciplinary action is being taken.
I mean, the other thing too.
It's a gray area for us. I mean,
it's a very unique situation.
It is a very unique situation, but I also think the other thing is like, if we have done an investigation and there has been an outcome that a violation has happened, there are consequences. It doesn't mean we're admitting that what the outcome was of the investigation, but that there's.
Kid ditches school. We should tell everybody that we caught a kid ditching school and there's going to be consequences.
I think nobody's emailing or inform about it.
But the laws and the rules are made to cover. Once you start violating it a little.
But the flip side of that, Mark, is if 100 kids do that, that says something. That's a data point. That's you can make some inferences and some very logical analysis based on that. But I appreciate the fact that what you just did was a lot more than what came to the parents from the principal, God bless her heart, which felt so dismissive. And people were just like, wow. And that's when it got even worse. And so that's why I'm advocating that you give that, what you just shared with us, they deserve to hear that as well. And it's all based on that acknowledgement of their fear.
Thank you for cheering on the statement, but also in defense of Principal Casper, if anyone called her or emailed her, she got what I just gave. And so what we didn't do was
broadcast
respond to someone on social media saying, I demand
Yes.
information. She did not get on and give that level of information.
Agreed.
But if I'm a parent who approaches a school official or me, you get that level of information, which is how we handle it at the lowest possible level.
Right.
So I am a big advocate for person-to-person communication and who needs to know and giving that information
Yeah.
directly.
Yeah.
And that's happening. It's not happening on social media so that we can hang
Agree.
kids out to dry in the
Agree.
I
community.
think that's also a thing, like, reminding our parents that you can contact the principal directly to get
Bingo.
information. Don't go online to get your information from the comment section.
Right.
Yeah.
Contact the principal.
And I admit, that's exactly what I did. That the people who contacted me, my first question was, have you contacted the principal? And
Yep.
have you contacted the superintendent?
Yep.
That is your right. You should do that. And their first response was, I didn't know I could do that. Absolutely you can. So sometimes it's about us letting them know. I mean, any other time, they wouldn't think twice about
And in fairness to the principal, those generic emails that go out, they're not written by the principal, they're written by the central communication.
Oh, clear. Absolutely. And I said that to those people as well. Yeah.
They're written very delicately so that they're legal and that they're factual. So yes, our communications team helps the principals decide how to respond. One layer down from that is, please contact me if you have any more questions, and that's where the real conversations happen that will help families. It's really hard for a family to get their needs met by a form letter that goes out to the community. So I do appreciate that thought, like, let's direct people back to the school community. That's who they trust.
Mm-hmm.
When you interview people, they trust their student's teacher first, the student's principal second, and somebody at the central office third, fourth, fifth. So we really do need to drive communication back to the school level.
Especially if they're going now, maybe that's something that we do in our next, like, you know, people have the neighborhood watch group, they have their other groups, they have checklists for actual information.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Go back there.
good. That's good feedback.
Yeah.
I doubt we're done talking about this, and there are people downstairs waiting.
That's good. I appreciate the conversation. Thank you.
Work session is adjourned. I'll see y'all downstairs.
All right, Hillsboro School District 1J regular board meeting is in order. We'll begin today as we always do with our flag salute. For those of you in the room, the flag is in the back of the room over there. As we gather here today, we would like to take a moment to acknowledge that our district service area is on the occupied traditional homelands of the Atfality Indigenous people, lands we now call Washington County in the state of Oregon. We honor the Indigenous people whose traditional and ancestral homelands we stand on, the Tualatin Kalapuya, Kathlamet, Clackamas, Tumwater, Malala, bands of the Chinook, and many other Indigenous nations of the Columbia River. In remembering these communities, we honor their legacy, their lives, and their ancestors. We also recognize the urban, Indigenous, Native First Peoples community living in the metro area, which includes over 400 tribal nations. The Hillsboro School District is committed to the recognition and education regarding tribal and local history and working with our local tribes in partnership. We have one proclamation tonight. Oh, I think Sheehan, you're delivering that one online?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Give me 1 second. All right. The Hillsboro School District recognizes that family and community involvement is a significant factor in the success of schools. By becoming a volunteer, family and community members are providing an invaluable contribution to the education of our students. The Hillsboro School District appreciates the service of dedicated volunteers to assist professional educators by offering their time, encouragement, and meaningful contact with students. The Hillsboro School District acknowledges that volunteers are called upon to assist teachers and staff with the day-to-day activities involved in providing a balanced education for our students and are an important part of a team that strives to ensure that each one of our students succeeds. The Hillsboro School District thanks volunteers for spending innumerable hours serving schools as chaperones, mentors, after-school tutors, club leaders, booster club members, PTA, PTO, and PAC members, guest speakers, classroom helpers, athletics coaches, and in countless other ways. The Hillsboro School District Board of Directors do hereby proclaim the week of April 22nd, 1st through 27th, 2024 to be National Volunteer Week. We urge all community members to join us in recognizing the many contributions and achievements of volunteers to the development and prosperity of our community.
Thank you. Would anybody like to make a motion regarding the agenda?
I move that the Board of Directors approve the agenda as printed.
Second.
Been moved by Director Thomas and seconded by Director Lopez that the Board of Directors approve the agenda as printed. Is there any discussion?
No. I thought maybe it'd be more appropriate to mention this now rather than when the item came up. There's an item, H5, about the substitute staffing contract that I had some questions about that I've had for a while, but I didn't realize until just a few days ago when this agenda came out that this is going to be a 3-year renewal on the agenda. So I'm wondering, I don't think I could vote for that until I get some of those questions answered. And so I was wondering, is that something that's time sensitive or something we could wait until our next meeting to approve and give more time to get to dialogue about those questions?
So you don't want to abstain or vote against it. You just want to try to get more information.
Well, my preference would be to be able to vote in favor of it. So that's why I was saying if it's possible to delay, if it wouldn't disturb anything, that's what I want to check on.
Do you know what member of cabinet would be best to address that? One second, it'll come on.
Yeah. Hi, Patrick. The challenge is if it doesn't get approved and we need to go back to the drawing board and perhaps go through the RFP process or something like that, we wouldn't necessarily have time to change to a different sub-provider or bring those services in-house. And so we are feeling that the timeliness is, it's a factor in this decision tonight. I don't know what your questions are, but I'm happy, as always, to talk to you about what those concerns are.
Well, yeah, we can just move forward and I'll ask my questions and go from there. I just wanted to say if it wasn't time sensitive, I was going to have to play it upon, but it sounds like it is. So we'll
just plan for some questions in that second.
That's
all right. Is there any further discussion regarding the agenda? Is there any objection? Seeing none, the motion carries. Next up is audience time, and I believe we have some folks that are interested and they're somewhere online. Before we begin audience time, there's a statement that the board has that I would like to read. As representatives of the community, members of the board of directors believe that listening to public input is essential to making wise decisions. So we thank you for taking your time to be here. We consider this your time to speak and our time to listen. So individual board members will not reply directly to you immediately following your comment. If a board member hears something that requires additional attention, they may request that it be added to a future meeting agenda, or the superintendent or his designee may reach out to you and connect directly with you. We are fortunate in the Hillsboro School District to have a collaborative community that can discuss points of disagreement in a respectful manner. With this in mind, rudeness, ridicule, obscene or profane language, impatience, lack of respect for others, and personal attacks are not acceptable. Comments aimed at state or federally protected classes are prohibited. Audience demonstrations supporting or opposing a speaker or idea are not permitted. We welcome frank discussion of our district operations and programs, but in public sessions, the board does not hear comments regarding any individual district staff member. Public participations in board meetings is governed by policy BDDH, public comments at board meetings. There are structured channels for the board to review complaints involving staff members described in board policy KL, public complaints. As you start your remarks, please share your name and if speaking for an organization, the name of your organization. We allow up to 3 minutes for each public comment. Please feel free to follow up by email with the board or superintendent. Do we have people in the room who are going to speak? And that's online. Stacy, are you with us tonight?
I am. Good afternoon.
We can hear you. I'll start your 3 minutes whenever you go ahead and start. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dear board members of Hillsboro School District, my name is Stacy and I'm a parent of a student in HSD. I'm attending this meeting to provide some insight from a parent's perspective on the recent chain of events that have unraveled within Century High School. With the recent publications online, I come before you with a scared child who does not feel like school is a safe place, and quite frankly, neither do I. Our community has come to learn of the hatred that was clearly publicized from two students at the high school, a high school that is full of minorities, students of different lifestyles, and all have parents that expect their children to be safe. After learning of the recent events that circulated the town, I come before you needing to understand what the district is going to do to ensure that safety within the schools is top priority. The district failed to provide credible information validating that the article publications were false as they stated. The message that was given to parents was to rest assured that the threats were not real. How can we be expected to believe that information when we only received 2 limited emails from the school? These emails did not provide any support, answers, and next steps on rectifying the situation. With the surrounding schools near Century High School, I would have expected Brown Middle School to make this a top priority, not just for students, but for the parents. And speaking to Brown Middle School principal, I learned that their safety protocols include stating their safety statement over an intercom daily. There are no random safety backpack or locker checks, and they have a single resource officer on site and not for a full day or daily. And they expect students to bring forth any information that could possibly lead to an investigation. I question how a daily message on an intercom and a single resource officer could stop any sort of dangerous situation from happening at the school. Given the limited information that was provided last week on the incident, I personally reached out to the authorities to gain clarity on what was going on. I was informed that this was a massive investigation that required multiple detectives, an analytic team, and officers were interviewing students, parents, and the main suspects. I was forced to outsource information due to the lack of HSD, and I learned that this was not an isolated small incident with fabricated information, as Principal Julia Kasper stated. Kasper confirmed via email, it can be quite difficult to disprove something that has been fabricated, especially when there are small elements of factual information included. But we all must challenge ourselves to be critical consumers of information and ask, what is the source of this information? Is it verifiable? The absence of verifiable facts is oftentimes the most conclusive evidence we have, because a what if based on a theoretical situation has always existed. Well, here's my response, not just to Principal Kasper, but the entire district. I challenge you to rise to the occasion and speak the truth on what the outcome was for these students. I challenge you to provide the parents with all safety protocols and new safety protocols that will be implemented to promote school safety. And I challenge you to think of the what if. What if the parents and the students had not reached out to report the shooting threat? What if this actually became a nationwide massive shooting story? What sort of comfort would you be able to provide parents that would console them? You teach within the schools to say something if you see something. That's exactly what we did and we will continue to do. You cannot expect to contain natural fear that exists when hatred, guns, violence, and bigotry is exposed. The what if has become a reality for many communities. Gun violence exists, mass shootings exist, most importantly, school shootings exist and have become a reality for many cities around the United States. According to the Oregon for Gun Safety Alliance, there are multiple things that schools can do to prevent school shootings. This include and is not limited to the below: increase school mental health counselors, ensure schools have regulated threat assessment teams. If running active shooting drills, only run drills with adults, as research show that active shooter drills with children may cause harm. Train educators and professionals to talk to students about their worries around gun violence, and support schools in preventing and responding to youth suicide. As a district, you failed to address our concerns in a timely manner, which contributed to fear, anxiety, and sleepless nights. We depend and we expect the district to provide necessary information that will allow us to feel like the school continues to be a safe place. This situation hit way too close to home. I could never allow myself to not take a stand and express the deep level of concern I have with our district. I ask that you address the communication that took place within the school and parents. I ask that you provide the context behind the investigation that will allow us to feel safe. And I ask that you provide all information on safety procedures, not just within the district, but for Century High School and Brown Middle School. I ask that you reveal what the plan of action will be in the event of a school shooting. We need more answers than just what we were given. Thank you very much for your time today.
Is our next person online or in the room? Online? Elizabeth, are you with us?
I am here. Can you hear me?
I can, thank you. Thank you for being with us tonight.
No problem. I'm addressing the same as Stacy. The recent allegations of 2 students being involved in a neo-Nazi group at Century High School has many parents and myself concerned for our students' safety. Even if the allegations are exaggerated, false, or true, the information is out there. No statement has been distributed disproving the allegations. All communication has been vague. What is Century High School plan of preventing retaliation of the students involved and the students that feel threatened by the accusations? The lack of communication from the school and avoidance of the seriousness of the situation is not acceptable. Even if it wasn't a threat to Century, it feels as it is now. We want to know what the plan is in place to keep the students safe. How is HSD going to improve communication directly to parents? Because this is real and not fabricated by parents or students. We have great concern for our students, staff, and school safety. Ms. Casper email that she responded to should have been sent to the whole school and not just to one parent. It should have been sent to everybody. I don't want an apology. We all want action. We don't want dismissive emails. Thank you.
Thank you. Is our next person online or with us?
I, Carissa Shrout, with the support of many of my colleagues, am speaking on behalf of our nonverbal students. We all want what's best for our special ed students, and I commend you for the sweet thought of the Neighborhood Schools Initiative. I also want to caution you, as the current plan is to continue services but disband programs. Families chose these specialized programs because it was a place students could concentrate on their work in a safe environment with teachers who specialize in their disability. Previously, we gave families a choice of a specialized program or attending their neighborhood schools. Each family could decide what was best for their child. With the Neighborhood Schools Initiative, we are disbanding specialized programs and taking away family choice. This is giving SPED families less, not more. Currently, those specialized programs get inclusion with their peers in a gen ed classroom. They have time to focus on their work in a specialized classroom, and breaks in a break room is needed. The Neighborhood Schools Initiative disbands the middle option. But what if the least restrictive environment is a smaller class size with low sensory room tailored to high needs? Where can highly impacted students go when they're calm and could be with a small group of peers, but need a low sensory environment to concentrate and not become dysregulated? When we disband programs, are students actually included more, or are they simply doing their own work in a back corner while an assistant is trying to teach over the gen ed teacher? Are highly impacted students interacting with their peers more, or are they actually seeing their peers less because there's no program between the gen ed classroom and a break room? Highly impacted students and families were given specialized programs so they could have teachers and schools that were proficient in specific disabilities. A teacher could be passionate about a specific behavior category and teach at the SPED magnet school that matched their passion, instead of needing to be a jack of all trades for disabilities. The magnet schools were also wisely chosen at high-performing schools which had time, energy, and room to focus on the highly impacted students. In June, I was told by a neighborhood school leader that they are willing to talk, but there would be no changes. There are no surveys in the middle or end of implementation to receive family or staff feedback on if the current SPED changes are good. We are required by law to give services, but our specialized programs were more than just services. They provided family choice, gen ed, and SPED community simultaneously, and expertise. As we try to grow and learn and implement, let's find creative solutions, but don't let a highly impacted student get lost in a gen ed class of 26 students. Neighborhood Schools has good intentions, but it doesn't necessarily support all of our kids with challenges in the best way. So please evaluate and revise the Neighborhood Schools initiative as needed. Please don't lose the benefits that we've had in our unique specialized programs. Thank you.
That's it? All right.
Is it okay if I rebut?
As I mentioned in the statement, this is not a time for dialogue. This is a time for the board to hear your concerns and comments. We also occasionally break protocol and make a comment. And I think the superintendent has some stuff he would like to share with us.
Thank you. I wanted to thank everybody who came and made comment tonight. I did prepare some comments, some thoughts to share with the board and the community tonight related to the events that happened at Century. And I'm hoping to relay those now so that the folks online who made public comment might be able to hear some of our thought process as we made decisions related to the events at Century High School. So thank you, Chair Watson. Regarding what happened at Century in response to the knowledge that 2 students were involved online in a network of neo-Nazi activity, I want to acknowledge the fear and the anger and the concern that exists in our community right now as a result of this situation. I've personally communicated with families who are concerned about the safety of our children. We work hard every day, 7 days a week to keep our schools safe in HSD. I cannot tell you not to worry, and I cannot tell you that online activities aren't scary. They are. I can tell you that there's no place in our schools for hate, bias, and targeting in HSD. We will continue our work to educate students on the importance of valuing and appreciating one another across differences, and we will continue holding students accountable to the behavior expectations outlined in our standards of student conduct. The following steps have been taken in response to this situation at Century High School. We have completed a thorough investigation of the 2 students at Century High School. We have completed a bias incident notice and response report under Every Student Belongs policy adopted by the HSD School Board. Police have completed a thorough investigation with the students and their family, including an extensive home visit. We continue to partner with the Hillsboro Police Department to minimize real or perceived threats to schools due to online activities, and that's ongoing every day. Our school resource officer is on site and available to assist us at any time. I also want to note and reiterate the following. There has been no threat made against the school by the students we investigated. Police have confirmed that the items shown in the pictures with the students were airsoft guns and not actual assault rifles. For the board and community, this situation has 2 main areas of concern that we've been working tirelessly over the past week to address. The first main area of concern for us has been the connection between 2 students at Century High School and a high-risk social network, what the police have characterized as a neo-Nazi or white nationalist ideology. The school board and HSD staff have condemned hate in our school community. In 2022, the Hillsboro School Board adopted Every Student Belongs policy. Under that policy, we include the reporting of bias incidents as they occur in our schools. We include curriculum teaching dignity and tolerance across differences. We also outlawed symbols of hate, including the Confederate flag, the noose, and the Nazi swastika. We are engaged ongoing with law enforcement, community partners, and other districts to address high-risk social networks, including students involved in gang activities, students involved in political and religious extremist groups, and including neo-Nazi and white supremacist groups. We're part of an interagency communication plan, and we collaborate to create pathways away from violence for our students. Those pathways include mentorship for our students, extracurricular activities as prioritized in our strategic plan, and community service opportunities for our students. We will continue to work with community partners, families, and students to help students stay safe in Hillsboro. Last week, for example, we hosted a community forum alongside Washington County Juvenile Services in order to educate families on resources to help their students away from pathways to violence and high-risk social networks. We need families to engage with students regarding online activities. We will continue to teach students about their digital footprint, about the impact of their actions and words on others, and how to keep each other safe. The second main area of concern for us has been the doxing of students. We have seen doxing in the national media. We've seen doxing of public officials for the purpose of intimidation. And by doxing, I mean the widespread sharing of personal information, home addresses, places of work, and personal cell phone numbers. We haven't in Hillsboro up till now seen the doxing of students. What started as an exposure of these two students for their online activities spread when links and screenshots were shared around the community. Myself and school administrators were not the first recipients of the original communications. We did almost immediately find out what was going on with the communications, and we acted quickly. Is there a threat? What is our response? What student discipline follows? Who needs to know? How do we keep students safe? Because of the reach of the rumors, we had a high number of inquiries and we answered them. In fact, the first words I read tonight are information that we were able to give families when they emailed us and called us directly. We also had a high number of social media posts. Many were reshares of the original blog, some accurate, and some taking the information in unpredictable new directions, including rumors of school shootings. Some of the social media posts demanded more information. Demanding action and accountability is fair. We also hold ourselves accountable for student safety in HSD, and so does the Hillsboro Police Department. We responded. We worked with police. We communicated directly with families and students who expressed concerns, as well as the broader Century High School community. We did not post in-depth responses on social media. We do not have the right to share personally identifiable information about students at Century High School with approximately 20,000 families who are on our distribution list for HSD communications. Future doxing will result in students being shamed, outed, and accused in any number of unpredictable ways on social media and on the internet. We will continue to respond with safety as our first priority. We will continue to protect the rights of students, even those who make terrible decisions. That's our moral responsibility, and that's the legal right of students we serve. We will continue to educate about hate and prejudice. We will continue to educate about internet safety. We learned that we should outreach to a few more community leaders to let them know what's going on behind the scenes. In particular, we have a goal of increasing our communication with our parent advisory committees. We learned that we could use a little more tender, loving care with our communications, perhaps going further than in our acknowledgement of the fear and the concern and the anger that's out there in the community, rather than just sharing the facts. We will continue to keep schools safe in partnership with law enforcement, with families, with staff, and with students. I want to appreciate those who shared tonight their concerns, and I wanted to appreciate also the opportunity for me to share some of our thoughts as district leaders during this event. I also wanted to share that on our website, we have a button called Keeping Students Safe. And in response to one of the parents who shared tonight, I appreciate your advocacy for gun safety, for threat assessment, for suicide prevention, for safety protocols, and that information is available on our website. We do have our own public safety officer. And if you have feedback on how to improve our district safety protocols in general, we're always open to that feedback. So we hope to drive people to our website in order to find out all the details about all those different safety measures that we take. This doxing incident has been unique, and we appreciate you listening to our statement tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. It's out of the ordinary, but it wouldn't be out of order if any board member has anything else they would like to share. I'm open to that. Yeah, both time and board time as well, but most of the audience probably have gone to bed by then. Okay, thank you. Would anybody like to make a motion regarding the consent agenda?
I move that the Board of Directors approve the consent agenda as printed.
Second.
Been moved by Director Thomas and seconded by Director McGuire that the Board of Directors approve the consent agenda as printed. Is there any further discussion? Is there any objection? Motion carries. Next on our agenda is reports and discussions. We have a presentation regarding our drug, alcohol, and tobacco prevention plan. I think Brooke has a guest with her. All right.
Good evening, everyone. It is time for our annual review of our drug, alcohol, and tobacco plan, both for prevention and intervention. The report outlines curricular programs and activities that are provided for students as part of our comprehensive plan. And annually, we give you time not only to review, but then we will ask for a readoption of our policy and our plan at our next meeting. Tonight, those updates will be shared by our coordinator of mental health, Jenny Carey, and our substance use counselor for our district, Misa Carranza. So with that, I will pass the clicker and the mic over to the team.
Good evening. I'm Jenny Carey. I coordinate the mental and behavioral health for the district. We're going to talk a little bit about the prevention and intervention plan for students. It's linked to the slides, as well as some data from our Oregon it used to be the Healthy Teen Survey data, but the Oregon Student Health Survey data. We're going to go over a little bit about that, as well as the connections and outreach that we're providing for students and families connected to this work, and hopefully some time for questions at the end. We're really proud of kind of sharing our approach to this work with our new strategic plan. It's really aligned with the hope to know, value, and empower all students to achieve their dreams. We at Hillsboro School District bring together administrators, educators, counselors, and community partners to ensure consistent social, emotional, mental, and behavioral health support for all students. Through aligned systems, collaborative relationships, and community partnerships, we aim to provide clear, supportive pathways for students, families, staff, and the community around this work. You'll see the policies and curriculum prevention plan kind of linked here as well. The best thing to know about this work is that it kind of unfolds in a continuum. Ideally, we're doing as much prevention as possible. That comes through our student education lessons, our staff professional development, as well as our connections to families in our community, our outreach events. To really open the conversation and build the literacy and capacity for our system to be able to approach the needs that our students bring. When we do identify students who have struggles in mental, behavioral health, substance use, we ideally are supporting them in connection to counselors and support on site at their school with adults that know them and understand them and have built and bridged relationships with their families. So through brief intervention and counseling support, small groups, mentorship, as well as formal supports like the Teen Intervene model. We're hoping to identify students who have these needs and intervene directly in school. Sometimes the needs emerge that are beyond the capacity for the school teams to address alone. And that may mean we tap into some community and clinical supports. We can do that through our school-based health center. Our mental health care coordination team are available for referrals out to community agencies, as well as we bring in school-based supports on several school sites to provide direct support to students on site to reduce barriers to being able to access their clinical care. We have a lot of folks supporting this work at the district. Our substance use team, Maritza and Junia, are really wonderful. We have a new mental health specialist, counselor on special assignment that's informing the work and providing support to the team. We have our mental health care coordination team, a slew of interns this year that are supporting the work as well. But most importantly, really highlighting the work that's going on at the building level through counseling and other roles that are connecting directly with students on the daily to provide that support directly. Maritza is going to talk a little bit about the specific continuum with our drug and alcohol work.
Good evening, buenas noches. So this is our drug and alcohol continuum support. So if we first focus on the blue area, that's where a lot of our prevention and intervention efforts have been. And this is a place where if a student wants to self-refer to us, a parent has a concern and reaches out to someone in the school, or even someone in the school can reach out to us for support of a student. As we move further into the continuum, we also do support students through the discipline route, through different interventions. So the spirit of this tool was created for for school teams to really have all the supports laid out for whatever a student needs. And typically, whether it be within the school, they are identifying any high-risk behaviors or high-risk concerns. And so within our role of the continuum, we support in the outreach specifically, hopefully more now, so in intervention prevention, and then move towards the discipline. So some of the supports that we offer is consultation and collaboration with the school team. This happens a lot through our care team meetings, pre-screening and intervention, connection with students and families. A lot of this looks like having conversations with families around harm reduction, safety planning, connections to community resources for prevention efforts. We host a lot of evening events for families or schools to talk about our services and resources and professional development for our staff, as well as data-driven planning. So this is our community resource sheet that we have on our Hillsboro School District website. We have it in English and Spanish. And these are our treatment providers that we most frequently support, connect families with. So this is for this year, our referrals that have came in. And as you can see, the majority of them have been through the discipline route for vaping and specifically around marijuana. So despite our efforts in trying to focus in at their outreach with intervention and prevention, we are still seeing that the majority of the students are being connected to us through the discipline route.
Speaking of the discipline data, we have some comparison numbers from last year. So our high school discipline, substance use discipline referrals make up about 12% of our high school discipline referrals. That's up at about a percent point from last year. Our middle school, it's much less than that, about 1.2% of our discipline referral data are substance use referrals. The Oregon Student Health Survey allows us to look at kind of trends in the community. It's a little tricky to compare this year to year. This was preliminary data last year when we looked at the same plan. It is now formal data, but year to year, the questions have varied a bit, and we had a really low response rate from that survey in 2020. It was a little peculiar year, you may remember. So, but we are happy to be thinking about how we might move forward and considering trends from the Oregon Healthy Teen Survey, this data, because it's going to be administered annually starting next year. So we're going to have a much better picture year to year what this is looking like in HSD. You see some slight variations that look like big increases, but they're really, really minor compared to the response rates. The data I'd really like to celebrate today, though, is the connections and outreach that's going on in HSD through our direct connection to students and families. You're going to see some of our internal supports through our student support and wellness counselors that provide service at our secondary schools, our McKinney-Vento team, our mental health care coordination team. You're going to see hundreds of students and families connected to support through this data here. Our student support and wellness counselors do a lot of the direct intervention work for our substance use needs at our secondary schools. And they've seen about 113 students specifically for Teen Intervene. That's kind of our model through the discipline plan. But they've served over almost 900 unique students in their services this year. And that's a lot of great work going on in our schools. We also have our school-based services that we bring on site, again, to reduce barriers for students and families to access this care. We have 2 contracts at our elementary schools through Life Stance and Northwest Counseling Associates, and over 100 families are served on those caseloads. Youth Contact is now in 4 of our high schools and 2 of our middle schools, and they have over 1,600 touch points with students through groups, crisis support, as well as direct caseload support for students that are receiving family services. Latino Network is a new program and partnership this year. It's just come online. It's serving our 4 middle schools and direct support for mentorship and community outreach for students that have risk factors associated with this. And it's new. It's a new program. It just got up and running, but we already have 7 students connected to that support as well. We can't do this work alone in HSD. That's why we really want to celebrate our community partnerships. We work a lot with Washington County Behavioral Health and Public Health to inform our work, to tap into resources and collaboration opportunities to make sure that our work is current and kind of anchored to best practice and research. So we've been able to tap into a lot of opportunities with that collaboration. But there's kind of countless folks that we're really leaning on to with support, our SROs, our partnership with Hillsboro Police Department, as well as mental health and behavioral health agencies that we connect with on a regular basis to support students and families. Thanks for having us. Are there questions that I can support with?
Questions from the board?
Thank you for the presentation. We mostly focused in this presentation on the responses, the interventions, and just briefly, my memory is that when we approved last year the health curriculum, there was a different provider for the alcohol, tobacco, and drug use program, and then also some district and internal developed materials on things like fentanyl. So those are part of the preventative, that general curricular matter. I think I want to commend us for doing that. And there was Oregon Public Broadcasting did a comprehensive story in January of this year about how different districts throughout the state are using evidence-based curriculum to inform their policy in conjunction with the Lund report Oregon Public Broadcasting did. And I was glad to see that our curriculum is evidence-based, and that we are, there's so much studies that show that when we do have that evidence-based, science-backed curriculum, it has such a huge role in prevention. So I wanted to commend you and thank you and say, is there anything on that front, curriculum-wise, that you're noticing that we should be aware of additionally?
Well, thanks for saying that. I think that it's been a hope to continue to expand on the resources available for teams to be able to intervene with this work and really target and individualize that care. So we are looking at supports all the time. So bringing anything to our attention that you found in your own research is always really helpful, so we can be exploring all the best routes to supporting students. We do have some new work coming online next year that I'm going to be really excited to report on next year. Yeah. Not to tease you.
Other questions or comments? Thank you for the presentation. And this is not just a great informative presentation, it's also like our legally compliant thing we do every year, right?
So it's under review now for you. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us and the team, and then we'll be asking for a approval on the next board agenda.
Next regular agenda.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Next up is reports and discussion, financial report. Michelle, do you have anything you want to add to what's in the packet?
Just maybe draw a highlight to our example, our 76th example of cell work in the district, and just kind of a celebration that we have entered into a memorandum of understanding with our partners PCC and Virginia Garcia Memorial Health Center. And there will be lots more exciting news to come. That's been a long time in the making. I'm just really, really proud of that work. So thank you. Happy to answer any questions you might have about the narrative, incident reports, and the cash flow.
Any questions for Michelle on the financial report? I think we're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have reached the action item portion of our agenda. And it's, I think, the final time this academic year we will visit the calendar. She hopes.
Yes,
Dad?
that is true. I just want to say thanks for the questions that Monique brought forward around just trying to understand the calendar days and all the things, and we had an opportunity to review those pieces. Those were the only questions that were brought forward to me at this time. And so I feel I've spoken quite elaborately about the calendar this year. And so I think we are at a point where we would like to move forward with adoption for tonight.
Would anybody like to make a motion regarding calendar?
I happily move that the Board of Directors adopt the proposed 24-25 calendar.
Second.
It has been happily moved by Director Thomas and seconded by Director McGuire that the Board of Directors adopt the proposed 2024-2025 calendar. Is there any further discussion?
I just want to make it a point of saying thank you to everybody that was involved in that. I admit that my perception and my patience probably did not equal initially, because I feel like we have been talking about this for a very, very long time. But in the end, it was worth it every step of the way to have every voice heard and all the things that you did. So thank you, thank you, thank you to everybody that has something to do with this. Hannah, please get some rest now. Thank you.
Hannah's been here in bargaining all day with Kira and Yvette and Michelle. They've had very long days. So thank you for that. So I don't think she's getting any rest anytime soon, but I like the thought.
We can be hopeful.
Any other further discussion regarding the calendar? Yeah, I appreciate that we've landed on a spot where people seem pretty happy with it. And I appreciate how we're approaching future calendars in a collaborative fashion and informing it with things we've learned this year. So. Rose, can you please call the roll?
Sheehan Kim.
Aye.
Erica Lopez.
Aye.
Patrick McGuire.
Aye.
Nancy Thomas.
Aye.
Monique Ward.
Aye.
Yvette Pantoja.
Aye.
Mark Watson.
Aye. Motion carries. Next up is the approval of the AP history course, art history course we heard about last session. Brooke, is there anything you want to add at this point?
No questions. And I believe this is the last course of the school year.
You make it sound like that's a hard thing. I love the course presentation, so I'm happy we had so many of them this year. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I move that the Board of Directors adopt the proposed course AP Art History.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Lopez and seconded by Director Pantoja that the Board of Directors adopt the proposed course AP Art History. Is there any further discussion? Rose, can you please call the roll, please?
And Kim.
Aye.
Erica Lopez.
Aye.
Patrick McGuire. Nancy Thomas. Monique Ward.
Aye.
Yvette Pantoja. Mark Watson.
Aye. Motion carries. Next up is the board's interdistrict transfer plan. I'm sure, often it's Beth, but it says Saida. Oh, wrong one. Yes, Beth. Okay, there we go.
Yes. So, as we do every year at this time, it is now upon us to approve our participation in the interdistrict transfer process that has been outlined by the state in House Bill 2747 about 11 years ago. And we always recommend participation because, we try to do our best to allow the best educational placements for our students and families, and for them to have that opportunity to make the choice to either transfer into our district from another district or transfer out of our district, hopefully not that often, if that is what works best for the student and the family. So this year, as we did last year, our recommendation is to open up to 120 slots for students coming into the district and to approve releases of our resident students, up to 70 of those to go to other districts as needed. And it's not easy to read because it's a lot of information, but what we do is we try to be really intentional and go on a school by school basis, looking at their enrollment, looking at how we estimate that changing heading into next year and where they might have spaces to add additional students. There's also a provision under the law that allows students to remain in their current school if they happen to move outside of the window of this interdistrict transfer
capability that they have, which would be April 1 to May 15th. So if a family is enrolled in one of our schools, for example, and then their family moves over the summer or in the fall, they're allowed to stay in our school for the remainder of the year if that's what they choose to do. It's called an administrative placement. But then if they wanted to continue staying in our district after that point, then they would need to apply for an interdistrict transfer. So we look at where all those placements are and, try wherever we can to retain a spot for that student to roll up to their next grade level, if that works for the school. So we kind of go down and we take those into account first. And then if there's any other extenuating circumstances we know about with siblings, we try to be mindful of seeing if we can make sure there's spots for them. And then other than that, we just open where we can, and then we'll see what applications we get. And then we follow an equitable process to fill those spots.
Any questions for Beth regarding the plan? Is this the same number we had last year? Same numbers?
It is. Yeah. We used to be a little tighter together on ins and outs. But as you know, we've kind of experienced the enrollment decline in the last couple of years. We've opened more spots than we've opened releases. So
and
we will always look at hardships though.
Sure.
So hardships can come in at any time of the year, and we'll evaluate those on an ongoing basis.
And last year, did we fill up at 120 and 70, or were we close? Any idea?
I did not come with that data, but
no worries.
oddly enough, we always seem to get pretty close, which is strange because it's there's a bit of random choice built in, but we always get pretty close.
Okay. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I move that the Board of Directors adopt the inter-district transfer plan for the 2024-25 school year.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Pantoja and seconded by Director Thomas that the Board of Directors adopt the inter-district transfers plan for the 2024-25 school year. Is there any further discussion? Rose, can you please call the roll?
Sheehan Kim.
Aye.
Erica Lopez.
Aye.
Patrick McGuire. Nancy Thomas.
Aye.
Monique Ward.
Aye.
Yvette Pantoja.
Aye.
Mark Watson.
Aye. Motion carries. Next up, sorry, Saida, I got ahead of myself. This is an item we discussed upstairs. Is there anything further you want to add? It was a great presentation upstairs.
I have nothing further to add. Just thank you for the questions, for the conversation. Thank you for the questions received prior to the board meeting. Nothing further.
And thank you to the Director of Transportation and Executive Director of Transportation for being with us tonight. It's very helpful to have her here. Anybody have any additional questions? Would anybody like to make a motion?
I move that the Board of Directors adopt the supplemental transportation plan.
Second.
It's been moved by Director McGuire and seconded by Director Lopez that the Board of Directors adopt the supplemental transportation plan. Is there any further discussion? Rose, can you call the roll, please?
Sheehan Kim.
Aye.
Erica Lopez.
Aye.
Patrick McGuire.
Aye.
Nancy Thomas.
Aye.
Monique Ward.
Aye.
Yvette Pantoja.
Aye.
Mark Watson.
Aye. Motion carries. All right. Our last action item of the evening involves the ESS substitute staffing services. You want to head anything off the pass before Patrick gives you some questions, or?
Yeah, I think because this is a pretty loaded situation page, I wanted to make sure that you understand the full implications of it. So we are in the last year of our current working agreement with ESS. It was similar in that it was 3 years with 2 one-year extensions. That partnership has been fairly successful and stable throughout that time period, which was challenging for everyone, I think. Before the district can even determine that we could go out for a service contract this size, we have to perform a cost analysis to ensure that we are overall, there's savings, but it's just not solely in wages and benefits. So that's a contracting rule. So we did go through that exercise, and I have that information available for anyone that would like to review it. The other piece too is that we are participating in another contract with David Douglas. So it's a cooperative purchasing, but we are participating in the pricing. We're negotiating the contract language on our own, and we'll be bringing that forward. But we needed to make sure that the pricing was in alignment with our cost analysis before we could even move forward. So it's a little bit complicated on this one. And I'm happy to answer any questions that any of you have.
Any questions for Michelle?
So I had some questions about our practical nature of our working with ESS, and I was intending to bring them up maybe before retreat. We had more time sensitive, but since this is in front of us, I'll ask the ones that are most on my mind, what folks can share. So I'll start off with some that are very specific and in the weeds a little bit, but of course our substitutes are not represented by a union. So we want to take special care that we treat them with dignity in the workplace. And so I'm curious, not individual cases, but the general practice of the procedure. What would the case be when we, for non-criminal or non-student safety reasons, so for things like punctuality or something, we determine that a substitute shouldn't be invited to continue serving with us in our district? Who would make that decision? Would it be an administrator in the building, or would it be central district staff? If we communicate that to ESS, would the reason for that decision be communicated to the person? And then how would they, if they felt like they were caught in some kind of internal office politics and they shouldn't have been disinvited to be a... Oh, sure, I apologize. Should I restart, or did you think that we got everything so far? Oh, yeah, of course, yes. Thank you for reminding me. I appreciate it. We got a reminder last time, but I need multiple reminders. I was saying, so who makes that decision? Are the reasons clearly communicated to the affected individual? And if they feel like it was unfair that they were disinvited from participating as a substitute unfairly, is there a way for them to have a second person, a second set of eyes other than the person who initially disinvited them, look at it to be sure that they weren't caught in some kind of internal office, politics or dislike of something? Because we have clear routes for all of that with union represented employees, and we could have a long-time substitute who is giving a lot to the district. And so I want to make sure that we're treating them with dignity as well. So any of your thoughts on those, I'd appreciate.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll invite Kana if you have anything to share with this as well. But just putting it out there, it's to our best interest and to ESS best interest to have subs working. Like that is the whole purpose of their business. That's how they make any margin to that, is to have subs, well-trained subs working for us. So just to get that out there, they do have an HR process where it actually begins at the building level. If there are some challenges with sub-performance, whether it is showing up late or maybe being distracted while they're supposed to be working or whatever those are, that initially starts in the building, the discussion with the principal or maybe even the teacher in that space. So we try to resolve it there at the lowest level. And if that doesn't occur, then the principal can put in a notice to ESS to say, hey, there's an issue, not we're blocking this sub unless it's super severe, but they notify them that there's an issue. And then ESS picks up their HR thread and begins to coach that employee, let them know the feedback they're getting. Because like I said, it's to their benefit to have them there working, whether it's in that school or another school. They want to make sure that they have their best opportunity for success. And I know that they also annually, they do a survey of their subs for like a satisfaction survey to see how it's going. And they'll provide coaching to our office managers and to our schools about how to create a welcome environment for the subs as they're coming into the site, making sure they know where to go, what to do, when, who to talk to, and who to kind of shadow. So there's a lot of that work that's happening all the time. It's never just an office politics type situation. Like there's a lot of people involved and a lot of people depending on that sub performing well. So I don't know, Con, if you have anything you'd like to add.
No, I think you really summed it up very well. I think the only thing is that we have like a monthly meeting with ESS and we're consistently communicating and we've had a long-standing relationship with them. And I always like to think that we're, trying to work in the best way possible to make sure that our students' needs are met in collaboration with that contractor's partnership. And making sure that if there are things that are not going well, we're going to work through those things. And if things are going well, we want to keep that going forward and multiplying that across our district.
So in line with Patrick's question, a point of clarity is that, first of all, these individuals are not HSD employees. They are subcontractors. So any action to them or by that organization would be on their responsibility and on their due process and then their HR function. So some of your question was, do we give them the chance? And you were looking for the due process part of that. And the due process that you're looking for actually occurs on that side because they are a subcontractor, they have their own HR and they have their own process. Some of that process, like they said, will then work with the people that we have at the assigned branch, at the assigned school. They would work with those people. But last decisions and decisions rely on them. ESS, that's their job and it's their employee.
I think that's right. And that's really the reason for my question, is exactly what you said, because I'm curious if someone, whoever it is, building administrator or central HR professional here in our district, decided to exclude someone for non-student safety reasons, to say, we don't want this person to tell ESS, we don't want this substitute in our schools. Is the reason for that communicated by ESS to the individual? The reason that our building administrator made that decision? And if they think our district made a poor decision in excluding them from our schools, is there a way for them to ask our district to take a second look at that? Because ESS, once our district tells them that, ESS doesn't have any ability to vary from that decision. Those are really the things I was particularly interested in. Do you have any particular advice on the question of whether we instruct ESS to communicate to their employees if an employee is not included in our district, why that took place?
Yeah, I think I need to get probably the written procedure from ESS and share that with you. I don't have that specifically. I know that we give feedback to them. They take that, they try to coach the staff member, to perform better with the information that we provide. I don't know that.
In your monthly meeting, do you discuss individual personnel? Is that a thing that happens? And if so, how frequently?
We have an HR director, Brian Hotz, who serves in that liaison relationship along with our classified HR director. I'm not involved in those meetings, but I'm happy to provide a board update that could, in collaboration with Michelle, that could answer those questions for you, Patrick.
Yeah, and again, I knew this was in Louise. That's why I apologize for bringing up on short notice. I just had no idea this would be coming up, or I would have asked it earlier with more time for you to get back to me. So I appreciate what you were able to share today.
Thank you, Patrick, for your question.
And not too far in the weeds, if it's easy, I appreciate that we're getting better pricing by working cooperatively with David Douglas. Why not more than that? I guess, like, why wouldn't other districts go, hey, I should get in on that too?
They do.
Okay.
They do. So the pricing agreement it's an open pricing agreement between ESS and David Douglas, who did go through the full RFP process. And so when they enter into the contract, the contractor has the opportunity to say, yeah, we want to allow other organizations
So there are probably other
to use
districts
this
using
pricing.
similar language to us.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
They just originated the contract.
Yeah, David Douglas negotiated the pricing and okay, that makes sense. All right. Thanks. Other questions regarding the subs? Do you feel like, Patrick, do you feel like you have enough information to vote for, abstain, or against, or would you continue to table the idea of addressing this?
I probably will abstain just because I don't feel like I have quite enough information. I want to be a good board member and only vote yes or no when I'm 100% sure. But I'd be happy to postpone it, but I understand that the staff's recommended that not be done because of the timeliness of it. So I'll just abstain.
It's not a big problem with us moving on.
For next time.
Okay.
One final question. How many years have we been with ESS prior?
Since 2016, they actually developed, we were their first original client. I mean, they really came to us seeing the need that we had. I think we were the first districts in Oregon to go with a sub-services provider. So yeah, it's been a long relationship and it's really kind of a custom fit and custom pricing, to be quite honest.
Any other questions?
Just quickly before we close on this, I'd like to say that I know that they would appreciate the opportunity to come spend some time with you. It may be a work session. They're happy to do that as a partner if that's something that you guys would like to have happen down the road.
I wouldn't hate it.
Yeah, they're a big partner for us. Thank you.
I did think of one other unrelated thing I'm curious about now. What do we know which of the other districts in our neighboring area do and don't do in-house subs versus ESS, like Beaverton, Forest Grove, et cetera?
I believe Beaverton and Portland Public both have their own even sub unions. So they're of a size where that works well for them. But I think most districts are either contracting directly with the substitute provider or accessing that through their ESD. I think one of the things that comes along with this is a sub-calling platform online that people bring with them. So either an ESD can host it for probably smaller districts in Oregon. There's 197 school districts in Oregon, or we're of a size where we just directly work with our provider.
It's one of those in the middle things. Yeah.
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 So in the end, we're talking of the big four, at least three of them. Well, all of us are over 20,000, but there's three of the four that are over 25,000, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Oh yeah, way over. Yeah.
Way over, right? And then they can justify holding that particular service in-house. That's just something that I don't think we could justify at this point.
We haven't been directed to really research that and find that out.
Right. I would love to have them come and talk to us at work session.
They would be very pleased to do that.
Would anybody like to make a motion?
I move that the Board of Directors award the service contract to ESS West LLC for substitute staffing services by participating in the cooperative pricing agreement with David Douglas School District effective July 1, 2024 through June 30th, 2027, with up to 2 annual contract extension options.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Thomas and seconded by Director Lopez that the Board of Directors award the service contract to ESS West LLC for substitute staffing services by participating in the cooperative pricing agreement of David Douglas School District effective July 1, 2024 through June 30th, 2027, with up to 2 annual contract extension options. Is there any further discussion?
One more, asking that you all possibly amend this so that it says 2 one-year contract extensions. I'm not sure what, I'm presuming that that's what the annual meant. It is, okay. So that it is the 1-year term, and that's the school year, not the calendar year. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Are you suggesting amending it or?
No,
Okay.
I don't think it's necessary.
Okay.
I'm not suggesting an amendment, but I think when she makes sure that the contract is written, she can make sure that that language gets in the contract under the terms and conditions.
Gotcha. Any other discussion? I just add one thing that I've been, again, privileged to sit on the license bargaining team, and while maybe the intricacies of it, people have differing opinions. I think most people in the district really appreciate the building-based sub model that we've got. And I love the fact that we have that program and that every almost everyone, I'm sure some people don't like, but almost everyone seems to be in agreement that it's a great program for our district, and the flexibility to have that person do all different kinds of things is great news in my opinion.
Thank
Any
you.
other
That was one of the ways they were able to meet a need that we had that we shared with them. They brought that forward. So
Yeah.
that's a good example.
It occurs to me very briefly, we may have folks watching who don't have a lot of background. So just in relation to my earlier questions, which I appreciate you sharing on, I want to mention that it's very clear that our district has a very productive relationship with ESS, and that substitutes in our district are doing great work, are being very well treated. And so there's no question about that. We spend a lot of time currently, for example, in bargaining with our unions, putting language in about how disputes are resolved, because we never want a dispute to happen, but we have that language in there so everyone feels fairly treated in the extremely rare case that something happened. And we feel good about that because we know that those procedures are in place. So my questions were about very rare outlier cases. I want to be clear that I think we have wonderful relationships and wonderful teaching and learning, and all of our substitutes at all levels in our school doing good work.
Any other discussion? Rose, can you please call the roll?
Sheehan Kim,
Aye.
Erica Lopez,
Aye.
Patrick McGuire,
Same.
Nancy Thomas,
Aye.
Monique Ward,
Aye.
Yvette Pantoja,
Aye.
Mark Watson.
Aye. Motion carries. That concludes the action item portions of our agenda. We are to HCU reports.
Page something.
Carrie continuing her long day. Thank you.
Good evening, school board, Chair Watson, Superintendent Raymond, and cabinet members. My name is Manuel Cota. I am a technology support too at 3 elementary schools, Minter Ridge, Rosedale, and Patterson. And I am proud to be serving as the communications officer for Hillsboro Classified Unit. In my position as technology support 2, I solve technology problems for students and teachers. I help people use computers, electronic devices, and school apps. Basically, I work to help teachers teach and students learn with technology. My role in this union is communications officer. In this position, I help design images and videos for our social media with information that our union members need to know. My goal as communication officer is to provide clear and easy to understand information and union topics in English and in Spanish for our members, and help our members access this information. We want to say congratulations to a bargaining team member, Michelle Davis, from Liberty High School, for her nomination for the Crystal Apple Awards. Michelle demonstrates dedication, humility, compassion, and skilled service to others in her work role as administrative support professional. I'm going to say this quickly in Spanish. Buenas noches, Junta Escolar Presidente Watson, Superintendente Raymond y miembros del gabinete. Mi nombre es Manuel Cota. Soy de soporte tecnológico 2 en 3 escuelas primarias, Minter Ridge, Rosedale y Patterson. Y estoy orgulloso de desempeñarme como oficial de comunicación del Sindicato de Trabajadores Clasificados de Hillsboro. En mi posición como soporte tecnológico 2, ayudo con problemas relacionados con mal funcionamiento de las computadoras y dispositivos electrónicos de estudiantes y docentes. También ayudo dando instrucciones sobre cómo utilizar las computadoras y dispositivos electrónicos. Y ayudo también explicando a cómo usar las aplicaciones de la escuela. Mi rol en el sindicato es de oficial de comunicaciones y en este puesto ayudo a diseñar imágenes y videos para nuestras redes sociales con información sobre nuestro sindicato, como nuevas noticias y eventos importantes para todos los miembros del sindicato. Mis objetivos como oficial de comunicación son brindar información clara y fácil de entender sobre temas sindicales para nuestros miembros y brindar tutoriales de cómo acceder a nuestra información en sus computadoras y teléfonos celulares. Y de esta manera mantener informados a todos nuestros afiliados de todo lo que sucede en nuestra unión. Queremos felicitar a un miembro del equipo de negociación, Michelle Davis, de la Preparatoria Liberty, por su nominación para la edición de premios de la Manzana de Cristal. Michelle es conocida por tener características de dedicación, competencia, humildad, compasión y servicio a los demás en su función laboral como profesional de apoyo administrativo. Muchas gracias por su atención. Thank you very much for your attention.
Technology department, be careful. You could be spending Tuesdays nights with us.
Good evening, Chair Watson, Vice Chair Pantoja, fellow board members, Superintendent Ryman, and administrative leaders. My name is Mary Kay Babcock. My pronouns are she, her, ea. I'm a proud educator and the Hillsboro Education Association president, representing and speaking on behalf of our licensed educators. This past weekend, HEA had a team of delegates attend the Oregon Education Association Political Action Committee Convention, known as OEA-PAC. The event offered opportunities to engage with prospective candidates, gaining insight to their values and their proposed priorities for education success. Key topics included funding for education, smaller class size, addressing disrupted learning, supporting educators injured on the job, enhancing mental health support, fully funding the IDEA Act, repairing PERS, and addressing housing insecurity. OEA delegates made the following recommendations: Suzanne Bonamici, Eddie Morales, Val Hoyle, Jamie McLeod Skinner, Andrea Salinas, and in our statewide races, Secretary of State Tobias Reed, Secretary Treasurer Elizabeth Steiner, and Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield. Washington County UNISERV interviewed and chose to endorse incumbent candidates Representative Susan McLean, Nathan Sosa, and District 18 Senator Campos. Hillsboro Education Association was awarded the local with the greatest contribution increase to OEA-PAC. Our members understand that legislators shape decisions affecting our profession, and it's important to be informed. This underscores the importance of our awareness and advocacy, urging all members to actively engage in the process. We take great pride in our locals' achievements. We were thrilled to learn that the Oregon legislature passed $30 million for summer school via House Bill 4082. To quote Governor Kotek, as we advance conversations this year to examine how our schools are funded, I appreciate that this bill also creates a roadmap to explore sustainable funding for summer learning going forward. I envision an Oregon where all students have access to these essential learning and enrichment opportunities. We understand that students thrive in their learning environment when basic needs like access to food and stable housing are met. It's inspiring to hear that Hillsboro School District has adopted a new initiative, the Community Eligibility Provision, which offers participating schools greater flexibility in providing meals through the National School Breakfast and Lunch Programs. Bravo. HEA and HSD bargaining teams have met 5 times for contract bargaining agreement negotiations. We have tentatively agreed on the preamble, Article 4, Association Rights, Article 12, Vacancies and Transfers, Article 13, Reduction in Force, Article 14, Grievance Procedure, and Article 19, Miscellaneous Provisions. We look forward to our upcoming bargaining session on Wednesday, March 20th. Congratulations and welcome to Dr. Dennis. I hope I'm saying their name correctly. Jewel, for being selected as the new principal for Liberty High School. We look forward to meeting you and working with you to support our staff and students. We are thrilled to celebrate the renewal of contracts of our members, marking another 2-year cycle of collaboration and growth. We firmly believe in the principle of reciprocity, understanding that nurturing a culture of care is paramount for fostering loyalty and retention within our community. Moreover, we are committed to fostering an environment free from toxicity, recognizing its pivotal role in sustaining a thriving workforce. As we move forward, let us reaffirm our dedication to supporting and valuing each and every member, knowing that their sense of worth and support will fuel their continued diligence and commitment to excellence. Together, we will forge a path of success built on mutual respect and unwavering support. Thank you, Superintendent Ryman. You invited union partners to help make decisions regarding inclement weather dates. It's important for the community to understand the dedication of our educators, who utilize those days not only for addressing weather-related challenges, but also for diligently taking the time working on grading, planning how to assess students before the end of the semester, and preparing for upcoming semester plans for our students. We remain committed to transparent communication and proactive engagement, ensuring the best outcomes for our students and educators alike. Lastly, thank you for addressing how the district can improve communication regarding the situation at Century High School. Students, staff, and community deserve to know that we do take these situations seriously and we prioritize everyone's safety. Thank you.
Thank you. We are at board and superintendent discussion time, and we'll begin with the students. If you can figure out who would like to go first.
Okay, so hi. Tonight I just really want to say thank you for the update on Oak Street upstairs. I'm a senior at Oak Street campus. I'm in the early college program, and I'm really grateful for Oak Street and the alternative pathways at Oak Street because when I first moved here 2 years ago to Hillsboro, I had a really hard time adjusting to high school here. It was just really different for me, and so I decided to do early college. And I'm so grateful for it because I've never felt so engaged in my classes, both in the classroom and with the work itself. And I've felt really supported from staff. Special shout out to my counselor, Miss Wong. And now, after 2 years at Oak Street, I'm going to graduate with my high school diploma, and not just my diploma, but my associate's degree in June. And on that same note of graduating, I'm really grateful for Oak Street and thank Oak Street a lot because with the support, not just from staff and my professors at PCC, Rose really encouraged me to share this. I'm a little shy, but I also just got accepted to one of my top schools, UCI in California, which my family's really excited about because my cousin went to UCI and it's just kind of a big thing for us. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I kind of got quite a bit. First, I wanted to appreciate the work put in and the efforts that are being put into soothing and consoling the whole issue going on that arose within Century High School. After that, I also wanted to announce my choir concert that is actually, time flew by because it's next week. It's next week, March 19th, 7 p.m. So I see Patrick with his phone out, so I don't see why you guys don't either. It's at 7 p.m. at the Hillsboro High School auditorium. And finally, I wanted to announce that my idea with my Asian Pacific Cultural Club president, that we are currently in the works of creating an APITA, which is Asian Pacific Islander Desi American Heritage Month Assembly. I am attempting to change the future and set down a legacy for the future Asian Pacific Islander identifying students currently and for the classes of something like 2029 and 2030. to know that they are safe and welcome and accepted in the Hillsboro School District high schools. I aim to propose the assembly this week, and the assembly it will be May 3rd. Hoping to have all other high school Asian Pacific Islander affinity groups join and host an assembly too. I also want to say I'm proud of the board and all of the admin staff and classified staff for their efforts in knowing, valuing, and empowering every student to achieve their dreams, as these efforts are proving to have results and they are succeeding.
Travis, you have anything you'd like to add tonight?
Yes, please. Congratulations, Hadley. It's awesome. And thank you, Hadley, for your inspirational comments too. I appreciate the work you're doing in student leadership. Crystal Apple Awards are coming up, and unveiling the nominations is happening in our schools. My own kids described the assembly they had to unveil the Crystal Apples for their teachers and classified staff. Francesca may have been sneak attacked the other day at an admin meeting. Crystal Apples are happening on the 25th, and they've changed the format to make it like a right after school type of a thing, more accessible. Tickets are less expensive, so please sign up April 25th to come and celebrate our educators. Thanks to the Chamber of Commerce for their honoring of the hard work of our staff at all levels. Congratulations to Dennis Jewell. We announced this afternoon at Liberty High School he'll be the next principal. He's coming to us having served for 25 years in public education, Franklin High School, Aloha High School, deep experience in dual language, 9th grade on trackness, things that we care about in HSD, and he's going to be a great fit for Liberty High School. We had a visit from the Secretary of Labor from the United States Department of Labor at Willow Creek campus, where Uvindu, one of our apprentices from Century High School, and I were part of a roundtable with Bonamici, Dr. Bennings from PCC, Mayor Callaway, talking about the great work that's going on in the workforce in Hillsboro. Community forum in partnership with Washington County happened last week. This is a long time coming, and a partnership that's grown since last June around helping students find pathways to goodness instead of pathways to violence. And our partnership grows stronger with Washington County Juvenile Services and other partners in doing that work. And like 5 members of the cabinet were at that meeting the other night and have demonstrated leadership in creating partnerships where they weren't strong 6 months ago. They are today. So I appreciate that work. We had visitors from around the state, and as part of the Oregon Association of Bilingual Education, or OABE, conference that happens annually. They visited W.L. Henry, South Meadows, and Hillsboro High School to look at what dual language looks like from pre-K to kinder to high school. And that's the feeder that has the most fleshed out dual language program, but we have dual language offerings at all of our middle schools and high schools now, so students can become bilingual, maintain their bilingualness from being pre-K through career in our school district, which is amazing. And it's such an honor for us to have other districts visiting us to figure out how to do bilingual education, specifically in English and Spanish. And last of all, PCC, sponsored by Union Pacific, created a mobile welding lab, which is a trailer and a truck with welding bays inside the trailer, so you can climb up in the back and weld things. And the first stop was Liberty High School, backed by the Sustainable Ag and Sustainable Design program. And supposedly, I can't confirm this, students were actually cutting class to attend the welding facility. And the principal, Will, told me, hey, that guy that you talked to, I'm not even sure he's supposed to be here right now, but he's sure demonstrated a lot of interest in welding. So I think if we have students that interested in programs that they're attending on their free period, I thought that was a celebration for us and for our CTE programs that PCC would put that welding lab at our schools first. It'll also make it around to other schools in the region as well as our own. So great things are happening in HST schools. Thank you for the leadership around the community.
Thank you. Board of Directors time. We can start online. Sheehan, do you have anything you would like to add tonight?
No comments from me. Thank you.
You. Monique, anything to add tonight?
No, nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. Erica, anything to add tonight?
Yeah, I do have some comments. I just wanted to, I know we had some audience time earlier regarding the issues that we had going on. And I think one of the things that I often now, being one of the longest serving board members, look back at our history and all the things that we've done around security and safety. And I just wanted to highlight that this is something that we take very seriously. And when I first started on the board, one of the first ideas was to actually have a committee to look at our safety and protocols because of everything that's happening. And I remember when that was started and the partnership that we had with HPD, also the creation of our own security for HSD, the investments through the bond in creating the vestibule that had more secure entry for students. So there's just been such a huge investment and planning and strategy around how to keep our students safe in our district. So I know that there's that with this incident, there might be a perception that we didn't communicate enough, maybe of all of the things that we've done, but we have done a lot. And that might be something that we could revisit, is just giving a narrative of all the things that we do have in place, because it's a lot. And I know that it can be lost in the myriad of things that we communicate out, but we have a very robust plan and partnership and communication and everything that goes on in the background that maybe is not so easily visible to our public. But that is something that is very serious to us. And the safety of our students is one of our number one priorities. So I just wanted to make sure to note that there's just been a lot of conscious effort and investment in that for the last 8 years that I've been on this board.
Nancy, anything you want to add tonight?
I wanted to thank all of the parents and the district residents who had thoughts and shared them with the principal and the teachers and the superintendent with regards to Century High School. I need everyone to understand that you have been heard. You've been validated. We want you to know that it's not just words. We take school safety very seriously. I deeply appreciate, Travis, the fact that you took the time to write the statement and you did say what we needed you to say. I appreciate that. And we will do, and I know you'll do everything you can so that we can communicate that with everyone. And I was literally texting people going, I hope you're listening to this. I hope you're listening to this. But I just thought it was important to say, and thank you, Erica, for saying it, that this has been a trajectory for a very long time. I thank God that nothing happened. I do. I said prayers to make sure that nothing happened. This is serious. It's our life. And I understand that. On the other side, though, we care about this community and we care about this school district. And you cannot forget what has been done. And what all of the things that we're talking about, I'm listening to our student members talk about what's happening in their lives. I'm listening to the teachers talking about everything they're doing. You're raising your hand and you're telling me to talk or be quiet. But my point is, just do not forget that we care as well. What happens to you happens to us. We were just as nervous, just as worried that something was going to happen. Again, I thank God that nothing happened, and thank you to the district and all the people who brought it all together to make sure that we and our children stayed safe. So I just wanted to say that because I think it's important. I don't want anybody to think that you were being dismissed or not heard or not appreciated for what you had to say.
Patrick, anything to share tonight?
I think my wise colleagues have.
Patrick, can you please talk right into the microphone right here, right here? They can't hear you online at all.
I think my wise colleagues have shared my thoughts on the Century High School incident, but I add my thanks for all the community members who have contacted us. And this is everything we do as a district is a collaborative process. I want to say on a much more happy note that like Travis, our superintendent, mentioned, it's made my heart happy to see the Crystal Apple Awards nominations rolling out that recognize some of our most outstanding employees. I actually turned the Facebook notifications on for the Washington County Chamber of Commerce Facebook page because they're the ones that have been releasing those on social media. So In addition to that, I learned a lot about new small businesses in Washington County, so that's fun too. But no, I'm really excited to attend that again. Last year I went for the first time, and it was such a joy to see all that, the recognition of the hard work of those educators and support staff. Very briefly, I'll also say, it was nice. Before the meeting started, I very briefly met Nick from Hillsboro News Times, and it's glad to have him with us. He mentioned he attended school here at Hillsboro, and local journalism is so important for letting us know what's happening in our community and for holding elected officials like us accountable to representing the community. And so it's neat that someone who was educated in our district is now covering our district. So we're really glad to have you with us.
Sorry, don't get mad at me. I just want to say thank you for the new principal at Liberty High School. I've got a senior graduating this year, and it has been a good year, even with the interim principal. But thank you for making that decision. We're excited.
Anything you want to share tonight?
No.
Okay, I'm up. I mentioned last time we were down here, quick reminder, I will be traveling for our next board meeting work session. Vice Chair Panto has graciously agreed to run that meeting. I hope to attend. I'm not exactly sure where I will be, somewhere between Indiana and Chicago. Hopeful that there are clear skies for the next total solar eclipse in my sister's backyard, which just happens to be in about 3 minutes and 40 seconds in the path of totality. So should be great as long as it's clear. Chris Lapple Awards, pretty excited for that. Thanks again to our students for your year's worth of service. And also a reminder, we are on the cusp of having to find some new student representatives for next year. We're not pushing out the door or anything.
You hate us.
So board members, look for the opportunity to participate in the search committee coming up soon. It is Liberty, Century, and HOA, right? All right. And yeah, I guess finally, we care about all the schools in the district, but everybody knows I'm a Century Jaguar. Sorry. So this very unique, weird situation, as the board chair, I was kept abreast of everything as it was happening. So it's been a very long week. I think one of the jobs of a board member, and I've said this before, this isn't new, I'm not covering your territory, is to ensure that we're spending dollars in the classroom and not in the courtroom. So with that in mind, I have to echo what Travis said throughout the entire event. No big surprise. I'm a person who thinks you should be careful of everything you read online because it may not be true. So protecting the privacy of students, even when they make poor decisions, is our legal obligation. So I think in this weird, unique situation, we've all learned how to remain legally compliant and be more compassionate. And I know we have to do better in that regard, but I also think it's our job to help students be better. And I commend our administrative team and the Century staff for doing the best they could in the weird, horrible situation we found ourselves in. So with that, we are adjourned.